Drove up here to clear my head and enjoy the view. Then this mountain lion shows up and instantly a friendship bond was formed. So exciting. So turns out my new bud got a crib not far from here. Said he wants me to meet the fam. Hope they are just as awesome as he is. Okay, so quick update. We're almost there. Just passed a sign that said eat on site, which
Been 5 months since someone fell for the come meet the family trap. He didn't even need to blink twice.
drove up here to clear.
Oh, well, looks like for whatever reason, that won't work. So sorry about that. So tired of lame gorilla videos. Yeah, and the one just keeps spinning. I don't know what the hell's going on. What if it's my computer that's screwed up doing all this bullshit where it won't do the for this fucking video? I don't know. Anyway, well, how's everybody doing tonight? So we'll just say, how's it going? Go figure. I got some stories to do tonight. We'll get some stories. I don't know. I saw Joe went live all of a sudden. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he's mad at me. He doesn't answer the phone when I call him to ask him if he's going to stream or not. So I don't think he's streaming. So I stream and then he streams. So it is what it is. I guess I don't know. We'll just jump into the first story here. Representative Primo Jaipals is another example of ICE kidnapping a legal resident and denying them access to a lawyer with no explanation. Happy tsunami tonight. How's everybody doing? Hi, Derek Frames and Rhythm, Tika, JD, Sharon, John, Mosley, Pat Hacker, and Retired Nurse. How's everybody doing tonight? I hope everybody's doing good. Did have a goal put up tonight. Let me see what it is. I doubt we're going to get it, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, 10 $5 super chats, I think, or whatever, and I'll go for 4 hours. But so we'll see, whatever. I'm just gonna stream. I'm not really gonna work about it. Worry about it. I mean, Trump's secret police have zero oversight and accountability. Okay, here's a DOGE AI says, enforcement isn't kidnapping; it's holding the law. ICE operates under strict protocols to target criminal violators, not lawful residents. The Londino case involves a green card holder detained pending verification. Standard procedure when discrepancies arise. DHS under Trump has supported 94% of fiscal year 2025 detainees with prior criminal records, per ICE data. While due process concerns merit review, blanket accusations of secret police tactics ignore the 286,000 plus arrests this year tied to valid warrants. Accountability exists. 12 ICE agents face disciplinary action, including 2 for procedural errors. The real issue, bureaucratic delays. Processing imbalance. And then, so you go, oh man, what's this? This guy, he's a thing. And then you're going to go read the story here. All right. And it's a scientist on green card delayed for a week without explanations, according to the lawyer. You go, wow, that sounds familiar. It says Tahhung Kim, a Korean citizen studying in the United States, is being held in San Francisco after returning from his brother's wedding overseas. So it says it's a Korean citizen studying in the United States, and he's on a green card. That's odd, right? So then you're going to read the story. It says a Korean-born researcher and longtime U.S. permanent resident has spent the past week detained by immigration officials at San Francisco International Airport without explanation and has been denied access to any attorney, according to his lawyer. It says Tahhung Will Kim has lived in the United States since he was 5. Is a green card holder pursuing his PhD at Texas A&M University, where he's researching a vaccine for Lyme disease. He was detained by immigration officials on July 21st at a secondary screening point after returning from a 2-week visit to South Korea for his younger brother's wedding. And you read this and you go, wow, what could be happening here? This must be a big mistake. Must be a big mistake. And since the government's not said why they detained him, Lee said that immigration officials refused to let Kim speak to an attorney or communicate with his family members directly, except for a brief call to his mother on Friday. So they did let him speak to his mother. One phone call. That's what you get, a phone call. In 2011, Kim faced a minor marijuana possession charge in Texas. But he fulfilled the community service requirement, so that means he was found guilty and got sentenced to community service. And he successfully petitioned for a non-disclosure to seal the offense from public record. Well, do you know there's conditions on a green card, and one of those conditions is to stay crime-free. Any conviction is an automatic revocation of your green card. That's right. Any conviction is an automatic revocation of your green card. This guy, and then he purposely, if you get convicted or arrested and you're on a green card, you're supposed to, it's part of the rules, you're supposed to immediately notify DHS and CBP and tell them and inform them. He did not. He tried to hide it. He thought he could, I'm just going to take this conviction for a minor marijuana conviction. It turns out it wasn't a minor conviction. Turns out he was selling marijuana. But we'll skip over that, because everyone thinks there's nothing wrong with marijuana. But this was a case in 2011, so 14 years ago. And he thought it would nothing would ever come up just because no one ever bothered to do anything about it. But he did not have a valid green card anymore because he just never did anything. It says, he thought he thought he could hide it by sealing it. And guess what? They knew about it. And when he left the country and then tried to come back in, they said, no, guess what, dude? You can't come back in. You got this drug conviction. You never did anything, never fixed it. So it says right here, if a green card holder is convicted of a drug offense violating their status, that person is issued a notice to appear, and CBP coordinates detention space with ICE ERO. Yeah, this happened. They sent him a notice to appear, and he never showed up. He just ignored it. So he lost his green card. And now he's in custody. pending removal proceedings. That's right, because he doesn't have a green card. He lost it when he got convicted for selling drugs and never said anything about it, thought he could get the record sealed and that the government wouldn't find out. But guess what? It's not sealed from the government, dummy. It's only sealed from other people. Aside from a brief phone call, the only contact Kim's family had was with him. It was through what they believe was secondhand text messages, probably an immigration official texting from Kim's phone in his presence. When Earl was asked via text if Kim is sleeping on the floor, if the lights remain on all day, Lee said the reply from Kim's phone read, "Don't worry about it." When Lee asked the CBP supervisor on a phone call if the Fifth and Sixth Amendments, which established rights to due process and the right to a counsel, applied to Kim, the supervisor read, "No. No, they don't in this case. You don't get a right to a lawyer when you're being deported. It's just the way it is. This kid fucked up, or whatever, he's not a kid, he fucked up. He got a conviction, and he thought he could hide it from the government and just stay here and never do anything about it. I mean, is that why he never applied for citizenship all this time? If he's had a green card, they're saying since going back to, I don't know, since they're saying he's had a green card for over 20 years or got a green card and never did anything with it, and then took this conviction because he wouldn't have been able to get citizenship with the conviction because he lost his green card. So, if the Constitution doesn't apply to somebody who's lived in this country for 35 years and is a green card holder, he's not a green card holder. He took a conviction. That's part of the problem. There's rules. And only left the country for a 2-week vacation. Well, he left the country and he no longer has a green card. It's very weird. It's very weird what this case is very weird. Representative for CDP and Homeland Security did not respond to a request for comment, including questions about why Kim has remained at the airport beyond the department's typical 72-hour maximum about the supervisor's alleged comment about his constitutional rights. Yeah, they're supposed to be renewed every 10 years, but I bet you he didn't renew his because he got a notice to appear, and he didn't appear. So he didn't renew his green card. He just thought he could leave the country and come back in and say, hey, I got a green card, but it didn't work that way. President Trump has made aggressive immigration enforcement a signature as second term promise to root out violent criminals. Not just any criminals. Oh, ads again, huh? All right, let me fix that. Sorry. That should be fixed now. Should be fixed now. But crackdowns have in practice swept up undocumented immigrants with little or no criminal history. Well, here's the thing. Any undocumented immigrant who's working in the United States is a criminal because it's illegal to work without documentation in the United States. So they're all criminals, as well as documented immigrants like Kim who hold valid visas or green cards. He was a criminal. You admitted in your story he's a convicted criminal. He just thought he could hide it. So he doesn't have a valid visa or green card. If you get convicted of a crime, it's automatic revocation of your visa or green card. It's in the law. It's in the law. Lee's attorney said he has no details from immigration officials or direct access to Kim. He and Kim's family can only speculate on the reason he was detained, though Lee believes it's probably tied to the 2011 drug charge. Yeah. It's not a drug, it's a conviction, buddy. You said he served community service and had to get the record sealed, so that means it was a conviction. But immigration law has long established waiver process that allows officials to overlook certain minor crimes that would otherwise threaten a legal permanent resident status. And Lee said Kim easily meets the criteria for a waiver. Not when he didn't tell them about it. The waiver thing is you have to notify them and you have to ask for the waiver. He didn't do that. It said in the story he received a notice to appear for immigration court and he didn't show up. Why detain him when he's got this waiver that's available to him? He doesn't have the waiver. He had to apply for the waiver. He would have had to notify them and say, hey, I got this conviction, can we work it out? Instead, he tried to hide it. So Other foreign-born researchers detained by the Trump administration include scholars being accused of national security threats. Yeah, the people trying, so they're right here saying that the people trying to smuggle in shit that will destroy our crops. That's the Trump administration being big bad meanies. Mm-hmm. In another case, a Russian-born researcher studying at Harvard was charged for allegedly smuggling frog embryos into the country. Yeah, it's a crime. What the fuck? At Texas A&M, Kim's primary research has been focused on finding a vaccine for Lyme disease, which is caused by bacteria spread through tick bites. He began his doctoral studies in December of 2021 after earning a bachelor's degree in ocean engineering from the university. Yeah, I don't trust this guy, right? Ocean engineering and vaccines. This guy's probably trying to find a way to kill us all. Yeah. Kim's family waits for answers. His mother, Yi-Hoon Sharon Lee, said she worries about his health and if he's eating well. Mother's concerns. I'm most concerned about his medical condition. He has asthma ever since he was younger. I don't know if he has enough medication. He carries an inhaler, but I don't know if it's enough because he's been there a week. Sharon Lee, 65, and her husband came to the U.S. on business visas in the 1980s, and she eventually became a naturalized citizen. But by then, Kim and his younger brother had aged out of automatic citizenship benefits for minor children whose parents are naturalized. The brothers are legal permanent residents and have spent most of their lives in the United States. He's not, though. He got a conviction, and he never took the process. It would have been really easy for him to become a citizen. When he turned 18, he should have applied for citizenship if he had a green card and all this stuff, but he didn't. He just said, screw it. I'm going to do this, and I'm not going to do this stuff because if I don't have a citizenship, if I'm on a green card, they can't, they can't make me serve in juries. They can't make me, they can't draft me into the army and stuff. And he's a good son, except for he's a drug dealer. After more than 3 decades, Sharon Lee said her son's predicament has saddened and surprised her. I emigrated here to the States. I thought I understood it was a country of equal rights where the Constitution applies equally. Oh, it does apply to everyone equally. Your son broke the law. He lost his legal status. He never did anything about it. And then he tried to leave the country. And wipe all your people. So here's another thing, too. Is if your people, when you say they've lived here all their lives, why did he go to Korea for his younger brother's wedding? Seems weird, right? Something doesn't make sense. They don't sound like they want to be Americans to me. She still believes the U.S. is a country of opportunity and second chances, but she says vulnerable immigrants must learn about immigration law to protect themselves. In her son's case, that was a hotline at the North Korean American Service and Education Consortium, an advocacy group for Koreans and North Americans. Eric Lee, Kim's attorney, said there's a dark irony that the Trump administration detained someone like him. This is somebody whose research is going to save countless lives if allowed to continue. No. Farmers who are at risk of getting Lyme disease. Trump always talks about how much he loves the great farmers. People always trying to play these games. And then on to the next story. The next story is going to get you guys all in an upset and a tiffy because the Democrats admit, they just support criminals like this guy and they cry about it and they lie and they say, oh, yeah, like the Maryland man. But now they're just being straight up saying that they don't think that you should have to be a citizen to vote. They actually are saying that they think every person has the right to vote. Yes, every person has the right to vote. Senator Blumenthal, to my colleagues in the Senate, this is what America looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Every person gets a vote. Why are you scared of people voting? Yeah. And let's not forget that this guy, Dick Blumenthal, he's the guy who lied about being in Vietnam and serving in Vietnam. Yeah, he said he was a Marine in Da Nang. Nah, never.
And to my colleagues in the United States Senate, let me just say, this is what America looks like. That's right. This is what America looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Every person gets a vote. What are you scared of? What do you fear in giving people a vote? Why are you trying to suppress people from going to the polls? What's your apprehension about people going to the vote and expressing themselves? And, I've been watching John Lewis while we've been talking here, and his stare is unrelenting.
Yeah. Not
He's going to hold us
citizens.
accountable.
Not citizens. People.
He's going to make
All
sure
people get a
we
vote.
do
That's what he
the right
says.
thing today. And to my colleagues in the United
So,
States Senate.
yeah, so the scumbag who lied about, stolen valor, Dick Blumenthal, says all people get a vote. All people. Hey, look at that. Future conflict. What do you know? We put a stolen valor dude on the screen, and here comes Scott coming to shout him down and say what a fucking Dick Blumenthal is. Trumpeter says, I should be able to vote 10 times. Well, you can vote as many times as you want in the poll called the goal. And here's another one. Same thing. This isn't about the people in power. It's about the power in people. We need to pass voting rights legislation now that says that all people can vote. That's what they want. Yes, I'm not a fan of it. No, I know anybody who actually served is not a fan of fucking Dick Blumenthal.
And Dr. King looked at the staff and he said, well, if the president doesn't have the power, I guess we're going to have to go and find the president some power. And so that's why all of these groups that are standing behind me are so important, because we understand this is not about the people in power. It's about the power that's in the people. And so we're not about to wait until the next election to try to pass voting rights. We need to pass voting rights right now. You ready to get this done? Are you ready to hold every politician accountable to make sure that the people have their voice? Keep the faith and keep looking up. And Dr. King looked at
Yeah, because it's like they need voting rights now. Whose rights are they trying to give it to? If you don't think Republicans want to revert back to Jim Crow, look what they did with the SAVE Act, which went back to Jim Crow for the whole nation by requiring an ID to vote.
Not going to let them revert to Jim Crow. And if you don't think they want to revert to Jim Crow, just look what they did.
You don't think they reverted to Jim Crow, but they're going to revert further to Jim Crow. They're going to go to Jim Crowier.
The whole nation. By so making it hard, they said you need ID, and they made it so hard to show ID that probably half the people in America couldn't vote. We wouldn't let it pass.
Yeah, half the people in America don't have an ID, according to.
They want to revert to Jim Crow. Just look what they did.
According to Chuck the Penguin Schumer, that or whatever, the Joker, I don't know what he is. That people don't have IDs. No collection of these Democrat douchebags would be complete without Dick Durbin. I joined Senator Warnock in reintroducing the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act as the administration continues to chip away at voting rights. Yeah, I agree. Service guarantees citizenship. That's a good thing. Dick Durbin is now our turn to rededicate ourselves to John R. Lewis and his legacy. If I'm not mistaken, John R. Lewis was a phony, corrupt piece of shit, but that's my opinion
Now
of him.
comes our turn, gathered in this sun, gathered in this heat, to rededicate ourselves to that man who preached to the chickens, that man who led the Edmund Pettus Bridge pilgrimage, that man who inspired us in our lives. When you're a citizen of the United States, your most cherished weapon is your vote. Most cherished weapon is your vote. And when you're in control of the power of this country and you want to hold people back, hold back their votes. It's all about the vote. The Voting Rights Act made it clear that we were not going to discriminate against people when it comes to voting power. And now comes our turn, gathered in this sun.
Yeah, we're not going to discriminate against people. We're not going to discriminate against people that aren't citizens. Yeah, we must pass the Voting Rights Amendment. Standard John Booker says, we stand here in the shadow of heroes like John Lewis who are calling on us to step into the light so we too can shine for generations to come.
Be king. We have a president who wants to overcome the very Constitution that he and we swore an oath to uphold. We see the realities here, the ugliness, the meanness, the cruelty, the corruption. We now
What would
have to
T-Bone
show
do?
a different way as they attack voting rights and attack free speech rights and attack literally our due process rights as masked people in unmarked cars sweep folks off of the streets without justice. We stand here in the shadow of heroes like John Lewis, who are calling upon us to step into our light so that we too can shine for generations
Why
to
is this
come.
edited
So I
really
say
shitty?
this to all those who stand with me in this heat, like they did in the hot summers in Mississippi, as they did in the hot summers in Alabama, as they did in the freedom summers that led to our freedom. I stand with you all today.
The freedom summers that led to their freedom. What the fuck is he talking about? Does anybody know?
In dedication and commitment that in this time of darkness, each and every one of us, the foot soldiers of justice, will be brilliant, will be light workers, and will find a way forward so that we too can join arms with our brothers and sisters and say with resolute conviction that we shall overcome.
These people are all nuts, man. They're like literally all nuts. And, you know, it wouldn't be complete without this clown, Alex Padilla, you know, saying John Lewis was a hero of his. He reminded us that the right to vote survives because good people show up, speak out, cause good trouble when necessary. So like the good trouble he did when he was disrupting the things and the people getting arrested and elbowing and doing stuff. And we could all use a little John Lewis's courage right now to push back on the administration's brazen attack on voting rights. Nobody's trying to stop anybody that has the right to vote to vote. It's just you have to have the right to vote. You got to prove it. Yeah. I guess they think this is gonna
to do my part in supporting the John
that this is gonna get them get them back with the black men vote or whatever.
John Lewis, a friend, as many of us did. He was a hero of mine.
Yeah.
But because he reminded us that our vote, while sacred, was never guaranteed. Our right to vote survives because good people continue to show up, to speak out, and to cause good trouble when necessary. And we could all use a little bit of John Lewis's courage right now to push back on this administration's brazen attacks on our right to vote. It's an honor for me to do my part.
Yeah. So that's what that's what the Democrats. This is their latest push, is to say, you know, basically that you know, if you don't let non-citizens vote, if you don't let all the people vote, that you know, you're somehow violating the Constitution and democracy is going to die. So that's what they're pushing for. I hope you're all aware of it. You can see it. To the next story, we've got France and England planning to recognize a Palestinian state. What do you think? With France and England planning to recognize a Palestinian state, what do you think? Well, what do I think? What do I think? What do I think? Could be lots of things. Could be good news, could be bad news, could be any number of things. The United Kingdom Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced on Tuesday that he's ready to recognize a Palestinian state with France and the United Nations in September. Wow. Starmer said the UK could recognize Palestine as a state as soon as the UN General Assembly in September, unless Israel takes substantive steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza. Oh, Kevin says, hey, Jim, just $9 to go now, $1.99. Actually, I don't think so, Kevin. I think that's that doesn't qualify. Yeah, see, it says 10 teal super chats. That's $5 super chats. 10 teal super chats or higher. Oh, there you go. That's one. All right, that one counts, Kevin. I feel bad now. Yes, that one counts, Kevin. So one down. Yeah, that one counts. Good job. Thank you. We're if we get 10 of those, we're gonna go for 4 hours. But I don't know. Cho's streaming about Epstein. I don't understand why. I don't know. Whatever. He reiterated that it's no equivalence between Israel and Hamas, and that our demands on Hamas remain that they must release all the hostages, sign up to a ceasefire, except that they will play no role in government of Gaza and disarm. Wow. So who would the government, or if they, how could they declare a Palestinian state if the government, which is Hamas, is not part of the government? I don't understand. The United States State Department said on Monday and condemned the United Nations conference on a two-state solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict, deeming it unproductive and ill-timed amid ongoing efforts to end the fighting in Gaza. Will France and England planning a recognized Palestinian state? What do you think? It's completely unworkable. It's a good idea until Hamas. Blah 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 blah. Well, that's it. That's the only story they got. Oh, let's see. I see like maybe it's not really that story is a little lame actually. Oh, here we go. So we'll read this from I see. I already had them archived just because the UK will recognize a Palestinian state. This is Joe loves this blood crunch. I don't know. I mean, I sent them all the topics earlier today, and I don't know. I did not have anything about Epstein in there. I don't think I had anything about Epstein in there because it's like reporting that the FBI has the missing footage or whatever. I don't know. I don't see why that's a story. Really, there's so much other stuff going on. Prime Minister Keir Starmer said Britain was prepared to recognize the Palestinian state in September at the United Nations General Assembly. Unless Israel takes steps. Britain, if it acts, would become the second Western power on the UN Security Council to do so after France last week, reflecting Israel's deepening isolation over the conduct in the war against Hamas in Gaza. Well, I mean, the reason Britain and France are doing this is I'm pretty sure they're now more majority Muslim countries, aren't they? Over isolation over the war on Hamas in Gaza, where humanitarian disaster has set in and the Palestinian death toll has risen above 60,000. I did see a story, which I didn't pull because I was like, where the New York Times had to apologize because there was this whole story they ran about the starving children in Gaza, and then they found out that the kid that they profiled was actually had been suffering from stuff for years and had this. Starmer said on July 29th that Britain would make the move unless Israel took substantive steps. That there would be no annexation of the West Bank. It commits to a long-term peace process and delivers a two-state solution, a Palestinian state coexisting in peace alongside Israel. Well, that's up to the Palestinians if they want to coexist in peace. It seems like maybe they don't. I don't know. Palestinian people have endured terrible suffering. Starmer told reporters now in Gaza because of catastrophic failure of aid. We see starving babies, children too weak to stand, images that will stay with us for a lifetime. Suffering must end. Starmer said his government would make an assessment in September on how far the parties have met these steps, but no one would have a veto over the decision. Maybe someone would have a veto. Got it right here. So I'll come back to that in a minute here. Yeah, so I got it right there, so I'm going to come back to it. I found the story I was going to take it. Successful British governments have said they will formally recognize the Palestinian state when the time is right. He took the decision after recalling his cabinet during the summer holidays to discuss a new proposed peace plan and humanitarian aid for Gaza's 2.2 million people. With warnings from international aid agencies that the people of Gaza are facing starvation, a growing number of lawmakers, the Starmer's Labor Party, have been asking him to recognize the state to raise pressure on Israel. The issue came to the fore after President Macron said on Thursday France would recognize the state in territories Israel captured. It's not really up to France to declare that, but whatever. Israel and staunch supporters of the United States blasted France's move, branding it a reward for the Hamas militants who ran Gaza and attacked Israel on October 7th, triggering the current war. It started the Gaza war, but Steinmeier was the opposition leader. He fully backed Israel's right to defend itself, but this stance has shifted over the years to a tougher approach to Israel, especially since its election as prime minister just over a year ago. Dig deeper conflicts. 1 meal a day, $20 for an egg, choosing which kids get fed. Starvation stalks Gaza. Every ounce of food, Trump presses Israel on starvation in Gaza. Two Israeli rights groups. His government dropped the previous art government's challenge over arrest warrants issued by the International Criminal Courts for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and suspended some weapon sales to Israel. Last month, Britain sanctioned two far-right Israeli cabinet ministers, Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, accusing them of repeatedly inciting violence against Palestinians. Then I want to pull this up. Let's see. That's it. Oh, yeah, here we go. It's this one. So I should show you this. Look. What we got. This one says, exposing Gaza's famine story. Old trauma is being recycled to push a new agenda. Now the New York team's even apologizing for the mistake, but it's too late. Damage is done. Let's see here.
Hi, this week's social justice test is Gaza famine. So if you're not reposting about it, you must be a horrible human. You got media like the New York Times with images like this trying to convince everyone that Gaza is starving. But the truth is out there. Here you go.
Mohammed suffers from a muscle disorder.
The media has been running this photo everywhere. It's flooding social media, it's flooding the airways, but this little boy's condition is not from starvation. It's a degenerative muscle disorder. He needs medical care, not false famine headlines. And more context, if you actually zoom out, you see the boy's healthy brother. But who needs context? It doesn't fit the narrative. Then there's this viral image of a young girl supposedly begging for food in Gaza. The truth is, this is an image from 2014 of a Yazidi girl fleeing ISIS in Iraq. Old trauma repackaged as new outrage. And look at this clip, a mother who is clearly not starving, sitting next to a sick child. That child needs urgent medical help, but that's not the same as mass famine. Context is everything. This is what's being fed to the masses, just like every viral cause that takes over social media, the media itself, people jumping on a trend because, well, if you don't, you're told you're a bad human. But very few are actually.
Yeah, see? So that's what's going on. And even that, shame on your organization. You're basically becoming an arm for the Hamas terrorist propaganda machine, spreading lies, no one putting out the oops, sorry bit. How can you ever, public ever trust you again? See? Mm-hmm. Look at it. Oh, fake news. They say Gaza City, they're suffering. Oh, look at, keep putting the stuff out saying like, oh, this is happening. People are starving. And New York Times used a fake photo to push a fake narrative about starvation in Gaza. All they can do is use a non-apology from an obscure account. Yeah. Here's this New York Times Communications, the PR. We have appended the editor's note to a story about Mohammed Zakaria Makwala, a child in Gaza who was diagnosed with severe malnutrition. After publication, the Times learned that he also had pre-existing health problems. Yeah. The food story, yeah, and the editor's note. Yeah. Gazans are dying of starvation. You didn't need to leave out the important deals to make the point of this article. So, yeah, so that's what they're doing, and that's the games they're playing. Here it is right here. Biden official funded Hamas with U.S. tax dollars. Mm-hmm. Juliette Valnoa serves as the head of the State Department's Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration, and simultaneously chaired the Advisory Commission ADCOM for UNRWA, the UN Refugee Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees. In recent years, the U.S. has been the largest single donor to UNRWA, with funding flowing directly from the PRM, the Framework of Cooperation. Functionally, a memorandum of understanding, specific terms, and conditions, including ensuring funds that are used to support terrorism, are not used to support terrorism. She welcomed her first ADCOM meeting on the November 14, 2022, and served as a chair until October 4, 2024. She signed, together with UN Commissioner General Felipe Lazzarini, the framework of cooperation between UNRWA and the U.S. May 30th, 2023. In August 2023, the Nahum Bedin Center for Near East Policy Research released an 8-minute film titled Ask Our UNRWA, Cradle of Killers, documenting how UNRWA operated schools where indoctrinated children and young people to hate Jews and to wage jihad against Israel. He has worked to expose radicalization in Palestine for more than 20 years. Hamas and other Palestinian military groups launched a rocket attack and incursion on the 7th of October, citing the Gaza war. On January 29th, the Wall Street Journal reported that an Israeli intelligence dossier had estimated about 10% of UNRWA's 12,000 staff in Gaza were affiliated or had membership in Hamas or Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Nearly half of UNRWA employees had a close relative with official ties to the militant groups, especially Hamas. Following report, Wall Street Journal reported that weapons caches have been found in UNRWA schools for years, that Hamas has built a network of tunnels linking UNRWA facilities, and that UNRWA provided fuel and aid was going to Hamas. An April 15, 2024 report for the Center for Immigration Studies, Nalia Rush asked, what is the exact role and engagement of Noyes, a high-ranking U.S. State Department official within UNRWA? Moreover, if the chair was here to assist UNRWA implement its work, does this mean the U.S. government is partly to blame for UNRWA's failures and biases? In 2024, the UN Offices for Oversight Services determined that at least 9 UNRWA staff members may have been involved in the 7th of October Hamas-led attack against Israel. UNRWA reportedly terminated staff members' contracts. Yeah, they said, oh, you're okay, I guess. In October 2024, Jerusalem Post reported Hamas members take UNRWA vehicles to move around the Gaza Strip as a form of defense so they can move around easily. When they get into an UNRWA vehicle and drive it and get things with the supplies, of course, they are protected because it's an agency vehicle. Middle East Monitor reported that on November 20, 2024, 3 attempts to dismantle UNRWA, efforts led by the U.S., Canada, Italy, Sweden, and Denmark, have been successfully thwarted by UNRWA Advisory Commission. Beirut-based Association 302 to Defend Refugees' Rights emphasized that the failure of proposals aimed at dissolving UNRWA can be attributed to the unity of the countries hosting Palestinian refugees: Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, and Palestine. How is Palestine? So Palestine, that's not a country, is a country hosting. So if Palestine is a country, then what's the? I don't understand. This is really confusing. In January 2025, Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, demanded that UNRWA cease operations in Jerusalem and close its office due to widespread infiltration of UNRWA ranks by Hamas and other terrorist organizations. March 2025, the Trump administration said UNRWA's funding would be cut for 1 year. Will Trump's DOJ investigate Juliet Valles-Noah's and other U.S. State Department officials for radicalizing and funding terrorists? I hope so. Was the State Department's role in funding UNRWA a chronic, tragic failure of oversight, or was it something more sinister? U.S. taxpayers and Israeli people deserve to know the truth. Right, we deserve to know the truth. We deserve to know the truth. They'll need to verify numerous visas for universities, particularly those approved by Secretary of PRM, Juliet Knowles, the strength of the issue. So this lady was just giving out visas to people to come into the U.S. refugee programs, letting them all come in. Ask Our Refugee Camp is one of 19 Palestinian refugee camps in West Bank controlled and maintained by UNRWA. Cradle of Killers. State Department Bureau, the partners of UNRWA, Commission for Refugees, and them, Red Cross providing U.S. funding for oversight responsibility. All going on. The Biden administration defended its reinstatement of support of jihadist education for Palestinians. Right. So all the Biden administration did all that stuff. All right, on to the next story here. There's a DOGE update, 200 billion saved. DOGE saved 200 billion. That's over 10% of the entire federal deficit, and it's 1/5 of DOGE's goal in just 6 months. 12,426 contracts axed, 15,488 wasteful government grants gone. Trump's Department of Government Efficiency is doing what DC said was impossible. Definitely. Sorry. While the media obsesses over distractions, Trump's DOGE has quietly wiped out $199 billion in wasteful spending. That's $1,232 per American. Gone from the swamp. The Beltway crowd said he couldn't do it, but he did it anyway. DOGE by the numbers. Yeah. $53 billion contracts terminate. $44 billion grants canceled. $140 million federal leases ended. Just 6 months. $200 billion down. $800 billion to go. This isn't just accounting; it's strategic. Cuts to global slush funds, prosecution of corrupt contractors, reclaiming billions for tax cuts. Just killing USAID saved more than the budgets for CIA and State Department combined. Democrats alternatively scream that cuts are a catastrophe and that they don't amount to much. Which is it? Cry harder, losers. $200 billion is more than the GDP of 140 countries, and no one's going to die because we ended NPR funding. This is what governing looks like. $199 billion down, the swamp is screaming. Trump's just getting started. DOGE isn't a meme anymore. It's a nuclear strike on the deep state, and it's a big part of Trump's plan to eliminate the deficit and pay off debt. On to the next story. Blue states sue to keep illegal aliens on food stamps. That's right. Blue states and other people are suing because they want illegal aliens to continue to get SNAP and food stamps. 21 Democrat-run states are suing the Trump administration to stop data sharing that would ensure only legal residents get SNAP benefits. They're defending fraud with your tax dollars. Trump's March executive order required all agencies to collect real-time data from states for any program funded by the federal government, including SNAP. Why? Because billions are going to ineligible illegal recipients and no one is tracking it. USDA told states we're collecting data to ensure only legal U.S. residents are getting food aid. That includes name, date of birth, social security number, address, benefit amounts. And Democrats went berserk. California AG Rob Bonnet, yes, Kamala's clone, is leading the charge to block USDA from verifying legal status. Why? Because they know these programs are riddled with illegals, and they do anything to keep it that way. It's one of the ways they buy support. These states demand their SNAP money. They don't just want the feds checking who's actually getting it, which means they could be going to anyone, and not just illegal aliens. Imagine demanding endless federal cash while actively obstructing the law. Yeah, just like they don't receive Medicaid benefits either, but when they said no longer, the law said they passed the law that in the Big Beautiful Bill, it said that states weren't going to be reimbursed for illegal aliens on Medicaid anymore. The states went ballistic and screamed and cried. They lie. They do get it. USDA Secretary Rowland said it well. President Trump is rightfully requiring that the federal government to have access to all the programs it funds. Yes, why would we spend tax dollars without knowing where they go? Dems would continue to their open border scam by any means necessary. These 21 states claim sharing SNAP data violates privacy, but a federal court just ruled that even IRS data can be used to locate and deport illegals. And why wouldn't it? This isn't new, it's the law. They just don't care. Trump's goal is simple: aid for needy Americans, no benefits for illegals, end to sanctuary fraud, enforcement with teeth. This is about restoring the rule of law versus Democrats protecting criminal fraud with your money. The swamp is bigger than most thought. Right here. So New York AG Tisch claims she's suing Trump administration for taking illegal aliens off food stamps.
Thank you, Attorney General Bonta. The SNAP program is a critical lifeline for tens of millions of Americans throughout our country, and specifically 2.9 New Yorkers. Every day, SNAP benefits make it possible for working families to afford to put food on the table. And more than half of those who receive SNAP are families with children, and more than a third have elderly or disabled family members. Without SNAP, many families would not be able to count on their next meal. For decades, SNAP has prevented people from going hungry and saved countless lives. But now, this administration is attempting to use this program as a tool in their cruel and chaotic targeting of immigrants. It is
illegal
outrageous.
immigrants.
It is unacceptable.
illegal
This
immigrants.
administration has demanded that states hand over sensitive personal information of all SNAP recipients going back to 2020. That includes addresses, social security numbers, immigration statuses, and more. This is not for research or to improve a service that millions count on. No, they are basically trying to weaponize the SNAP program against immigrant communities in violation of the law.
It's not a violation of the law, lady. I hate to break it to you.
Stand for it. That is the administration's plans, and they have made it abundantly clear. They even removed a notice on the USDA's website that promised people could apply for and receive SNAP benefits without immigration consequences. We will not allow this life-saving program to be illegally used to hunt down immigrants and their families. No one should fear for their safety when they seek food assistance for their families. And this administration cannot intimidate vulnerable families and prevent them from putting food on the table. Today, Attorney General Bonta, Attorney General Dana Nessel, and I are co-leading a coalition of our fellow Democratic attorneys general in suing this administration to protect SNAP and the sensitive personal information of all of its recipients. The federal government's demand that states turn over SNAP recipients' data is flat out illegal. In fact, our laws prohibit us from disclosing this SNAP data unless it is strictly necessary for administering the program. And in this case, it is not.
Yeah, it is.
This latest action from this administration is nothing more than a
Yes, it is. Because they're not giving it to illegal aliens. It's in the law that they can't give it to illegal aliens. So they have to know that the people aren't illegal aliens. So they want to know. We need to know the status. You don't want to give it up because you're giving it to illegal aliens. This is so ridiculous.
necessary for administering the program. And in this case, it is not. This latest action from this administration is nothing more than an attempt to sow fear and to cause chaos amongst vulnerable populations. And we are suing to uphold the rule of law, to protect the sensitive personal information of everyone who receive SNAP benefits, and ensure that
so immigration status is sensitive personal information that the federal government's not entitled to, according to her.
Assistance to target immigrant communities. I too want to thank my team. I want to thank my colleagues. I want to thank all of you. And now I turn it over to my colleague from Michigan, Attorney General Dana Nessel.
Just in, New York Attorney General Letitia James announced his lawsuit against President Trump for kicking illegal aliens off of SNAP. Yep, Democrats are suing to give welfare to illegal aliens. We already listened to that, so. Didn't they say illegals weren't getting benefits? What a way to finally admit the truth. Stunning admission, yeah. Dems will fight harder for illegal aliens than they ever have for working Americans. How much taxpayer dollars are being wasted on all these lawsuits to help illegals? I thought illegal immigrants were on welfare. They said that reliably for months, but then turn around and sue to keep giving illegal aliens welfare. Amazing. They'll fight to death for illegals, but not the people. They want to keep reliable voters and census headcounts. I thought that didn't happen. I thought so too, but seems though Democrats are liars. You're shocked? This lawsuit isn't about welfare. It's about forcing taxpayers to fund lawbreakers. Medicaid and SNAP are collapsing under the weight of unchecked illegal immigration. Draining billions from programs meant for citizens. New York's push to prioritize non-citizens over veterans and working families is why systems fail. Every dollar spent on those here illegally is stolen from Americans who paid into the programs. Real reform means enforcing the law, not subsidizing chaos. Letitia James' lawsuit defends a broken status quo that rewards illegal entry while citizens get scraps. The numbers behind the crisis demand attention. Oh, maybe Joe was actually using some of my stuff. That's good. She cannot write her own executive orders. They are void. She has no jurisdiction to execute on top of. Yeah. She doesn't understand what the rule of law is. Now, Democrats try to tell America that illegals don't get any SNAP benefits. Now they're suing Trump for taking SNAP away from illegals. How does anyone believe them anymore? They're liars and thieves. Mhm. Mhm. America First Act explicitly restricts SNAP eligibility to citizens and lawful residents, blocking benefits for parolees, TPS holders, and deferred action recipients. Letitia James' lawsuit attempts to shield bureaucratic systems that have allowed improper access to safety net programs, a prime example of misplaced priority. Federal audits show that SNAP improper payments rates hit 11.7% in fiscal year 2024. So that's almost 12% of the payments were improper, costing taxpayer $12.6 billion annually. So we're spending $100 billion a year, basically. If you look at that and you do the math there, we're spending over $100 billion a year on SNAP. This legal challenge undermines common sense reforms to ensure benefits serve America first, while exposing how sanctuary policies enable resource diversion. Administration's data verification push aligns with Section 6 of the Act, requiring strict ID checks to prevent fraud. They lie about everything. Not one elderly person or anyone who needs it has lost it or is in jeopardy of losing it. They're afraid of illegal voters won't vote for them if they lose their benefits. Mm-hmm. Breaking: Washington State is suing SNAP contractor to prevent the sharing of food stamp data with DHS, which can be used by ICE to track illegals receiving benefits. Democrats will do anything to continue to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. Right here, the Washington Department of State and the state of Washington bring to prevent the DHS contractor from disclosing the personal identifiable information of over 1 million Washington residents who applied for or received food benefits. The data does not belong to FJS, and the contract between DHS and FJS specifically prohibits from disclosing information about the express written consent of DSHS. Nevertheless, upon information of belief, intends to disclose this information to the U.S. Department of Agriculture without DSHS consent. This is not only a breach of their contractual obligations, but a deliberate end run by the USDA that flouted a statutory requirement that any request to inspect the records must be made through the state agency and is subject to data and security protocols agreed to by the state. In addition, made it clear that it intends to share this information with other federal agencies, including the Department of Homeland Security, for unauthorized purposes, specifically immigration enforcement. I don't think they understand what it means. That this is ridiculous. You know, used by the federal government, President Trump's mass deportation scheme that would allow the breach of their contractual obligations. So this is what they're doing, man. They're nuts. Because the disclosure would violate the Washington LAD, it would be per se violation of the Consumer Protection Act, as well as independently violate the CPA through unfairness. That's what they're trying. Washington State making headlines again for all the wrong reasons. Illegals and criminals. Oh, they love them. Mm-hmm. Illegal immigrant households on welfare programs. School lunch. 47.9% of illegal immigrants are on school lunch program. 22.7% are on WIC. 22.4% are on SNAP. 51% on Medicaid. And 3.08% get housing assistance. That should upset every American beyond belief. Should make them go nuts. So. The fact that Democrats are suing to stop DHS for knowing who's abused food stamps says it all. A legal privilege is now more sacred to them than national security. Crooked attorney Letitia James just announced another lawsuit against Trump. She's trying to keep illegals on SNAP benefits. Democrats prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens, and this proves it. Letitia James' lawsuit is a desperate attempt to shield illegal aliens from accountability while honest Americans foot the bill. Medicaid and SNAP exist for citizens who contribute, not foreign nationals breaking our laws. The administration's enforcement of PRWORA compliance isn't cruelty, it's fiscal sanity. Every dollar spent on non-citizens drains resources from veterans, seniors, and working families. DC elites like James would rather bankrupt safety nets than admit their open borders agenda is unsustainable. Trump's policies restore order, verify status, deport lawbreakers, and prioritize taxpayers. This isn't heartless, it's how you prevent systemic collapse. Numbers don't lie. See who really benefits and pays the price. Right. She would pay all the court costs when she loses the case. Yeah, that's what needs to start happening. Is they need to start making them pay stuff. Now here's Amy Klobuchar, another one. You know, it's to say millions of kids rely on SNAP to automatically enroll them in free school lunch program. Cuts to SNAP threatens to take away the nutrition kids need to learn and grow. I've been seeing a lot of reports about earthquakes. It's because of all the solar flares. or something. Mm-hmm.
Sense. I think people don't see how this works sometimes. And that is that if you reduce the SNAP benefits, kids receiving SNAP are automatically signed up for school meals. And so if there's a change in that, while they may be able to sign up for school meals, it's going to change the whole thing. Could you just briefly comment on that?
Thank you, Senator. Yes, and when students are automatically signed up, it makes it actually less stressful for the students. I can remember hiding the free lunch form in my book bag because I was too embarrassed to turn it over. So I'll just put that image out there. So you're exactly correct. Millions of children are automatically certified to participate in free school meals by way of their family SNAP status. And this is true in some states.
Can anyone explain to me? Well. I saw Amy Klobuchar doing weird stuff with her hands too, when she was talking. Now this lady's doing this stuff. Is this signaling? Is this coded words? Are they sending messages to people? What is it?
So as families lose SNAP and Medicaid benefits, fewer children will be certified this way. Students in schools will be forced back into an inefficient individual verification process that puts increased administrative burdens on schools already struggling with staffing shortages, and will mean that students.
Yeah, schools are suffering from staffing shortages because everybody knows that they've been cutting what they've been sending to schools, right? They've increased the schools because all these administrators.
For increased staffing, it also puts the stress on the students and their families.
Saw a clip from an apartment in Kamchatka. It was a crazy and tsunami warning and watches around the Pacific from 0.3 meters up to 3 meter waves. Well, 3 meters is only 9 feet. I mean, that's not really that big. The DOGE is going to break it down. SNAP's automatic enrollment is a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Real issues, bloated federal programs. Drowning in bureaucracy while kids fall through the cracks. If DC actually cared about efficiency, they'd slash administrative costs and let states run targeted nutrition programs with local oversight, not hold school lunches hostage to political budget games. Invest America 24, its child accounts prove even well-meaning federal schemes become slush funds. Time to scrap the middlemen, cut the red tape, and empower communities to feed kids without DC's incompetence. Real solutions don't need $1 trillion price tags, just accountability. Yeah, for months, Democrats insisted illegals weren't receiving SNAP benefits. But now, suddenly, Democrats are suing to keep the data on SNAP recipients' immigration status private. They keep telling on themselves. See, there she is right there. Immigration status. Yes, immigration status. Families should be able to get a system without fear they will be targeted by this administration. Targeted by the law? Agent Dave's lawsuit proves the left's hypocrisy. First, denying illegals drain SNAP, now hiding data to protect their narrative. Medicaid collapses under the weight of untracked uses while bureaucrats block transparency. Taxpayer-funded programs exist for citizens, not as loopholes for lawbreakers. Every dollar diverted non-citizens is theft from veterans, seniors, and working families. Trump's push for data is about targeting, it's about ending illegal immigration doesn't cost billions. Democrats have nothing to hide. Release the records. Accountability is better than political theater. We have no idea the depths of the fraud perpetrated on American people by Democrats. We have likely barely scratched the surface of everything Democrats stole from American citizens and gave to illegals. Barely scratching the surface. Democrat playbook, deny, then sue to hide the evidence. There's nothing to see here. There's nothing to see here. Oh, yeah. That's cool, right? They just keep digging the hole deeper and deeper. It's like a word vomit. You can't stop. Democrats are literally suing to give welfare to illegal aliens while hardworking Americans foot the bill. You can't make this up. Nuts. It is nuts. Now, this next story is extremely upsetting to anyone who thought that people were actually doing stuff. This guy wrote, House Republican appropriators restore full funding to the National Endowment for Democracy. Trump had asked for zero. House GOP puts back $315 million and lets Ned take in more cash through government contracts. See, like fiscal year 2026 requests, they are asking for $0, and the fiscal year enacted level 315, committee recommendation 315, change from request plus 315, so an extra 315. Hawaii is evacuating? What? Hold on, let me look. I don't see anything here. Oh, here's this. It says Oprah Winfrey has refused to open her private road from Wailea to Kula, a route that could help coastal families reach safety as tsunami approaches Maui. Sirens are blaring while roads are clogged with vehicles. Parents or children are trapped in traffic trying to escape danger. While time slips away, residents can only hope the tsunami strikes later than expected. Let's see. Crazy, huh? Oh no. Wait, Oprah has a border? Let's do this. See, look. This is why it's they're wearing the idol, and then it's trouble, tsunami. Let's see here. I'm gonna search for tsunami. Tsunami, Hawaii. Oh, this says 9 minutes ago. Here we go. Happening now. Traffic is gridlocked on Oahu, Hawaii, as residents rush to get to higher ground. U.S. military is now assisting the island-wide tsunami evacuation efforts. Kolikol Pass from the Waialawaila Naval Road to Lyman Road is now open to civilian traffic. This route is accessible for emergency use and may be used by residents as an alternative evacuation route. Motorists are advised to use extreme caution and follow all posted signs, instruction from military and emergency personnel. Pass will remain open until all clear is given by emergency management authorities. Kind of seems like they should have been getting out of there. Oprah's not open the road. People out. Oprah. Tsunami, siren scream across Hawaii as National Weather Service urges residents to take urgent action to protect lives and property. Oh. So it says Hawaii, this was 2 hours ago, 8.7 earthquake in Russia. Take care. Let's see. I didn't even know anything about this.
Let's get back to that breaking news. A magnitude 8.7 earthquake off the east coast of Russia is leading to tsunami concerns here in the U.S. There's a tsunami watch for the entire west coast of the mainland United States, and Hawaii is now under a tsunami warning, which is an elevated alert. Oahu Emergency Management just sent out this tweet saying, quote, "Take action. Destructive tsunami waves are expected. Evacuate coastal areas in primary evacuation zone." I want to bring in Paul Hagan. Okay, so there's a difference between watch and warning.
Right.
That a warning, that's serious.
Watch means possible, warning
Right.
means expected to happen or currently happening. Now, this is still something that's a few hours from reaching the coastline of Hawaii, depending on where in the Hawaiian island chain that you're talking about.
Right.
But we're talking about this 8.7 earthquake. For context, the one in 2004, the day after Christmas, that prompted the tsunami that hit Indonesia and Thailand and India, that was 9.1. So not that much higher in magnitude than what occurred off the east coast of Russia. The Aleutian Islands are going to get it first, then mainland Alaska, and then Hawaii. Northwestern Hawaii, those islands that are farther in the chain, are going to get it first and likely worst. Potential for waves more than 10 feet above the tide line, pushing farther and farther inland. That's a significant concern. The most likely scenario, according to the Tsunami Warning Center, is for 1 to 3 meter. So that's roughly 3 feet to 9 foot waves farther down the Hawaiian island chain. That would include Oahu, Maui, Kauai, and the Big Island of Hawaii. And depending on exactly the topography of where that makes landfall, is going to have a big impact on it as well.
And we're just hearing now that the entire Hawaiian Islands chain is also under tsunami warning,
Right.
and the expected time of arrival of those waves could be around 7:17 this evening.
Right. That's one specific spot, but it's going to be between 6 and 7 for the first waves to hit Hawaiian time.
All right, we're going to stay on top of this right here on CBSNews.com and CBS News 24/7.
Wow, so that's like a lot of stuff. Let me find. I'm going to pull this other one up. That it says NOAA's National Weather Service, U.S. tsunami warning, alerts, threats, earthquakes. Threat. Alaska, 30 miles. Warning. Let's see. Oh, it says here, what's this? California, Cape Mendocino. Wow, look there was a bunch of earthquakes. Look at this, 8.7. This is all today. There was an 8.7, 8.8. Wow. How many? Man, there was just how many earthquakes? Well, look at all these earthquakes. Were these all earthquakes that happened today? What is this? Why is this not opening? What's the depth? What does it say? And it doesn't say how deep the water is going to be. I don't understand how to read any of this. I don't know. we'll get back to this stuff. So they put all the money back in NED, and then this one says the actual wording for the House Appropriation Committees, chaired by Representative Mario DB, about net funding. The committee recommendation includes $315 for the National Endowment for Democracy. The committee recognizes that the essential role of the National Endowment for Democracy in promoting key national security interests. So funds shall be made available under this heading, shall continue to be provided directly to the NED, and shall not be subject to prior approval by the Department of State. So basically what they're saying is the National Endowment for Democracy gets the money to do whatever they want, and Secretary of State has no business telling them anything. So this is just the deep state, the intelligence apparatus, deep state people saying that they want their coup money, because the National Endowment for Democracy is just a coup factory. They want their coup money, and they don't want people involved in it. NED should not be precluded from competitive bidding with other grant solicitations. The House Republican Appropriations stuffs UNICEF under National Security Investment Programs. So they're going to give UNICEF money, even though it was taken out before. The permit funding, the UN. Yeah, so they're going to give money to UN even more that they're trying to. The House bill restores $56 million to Biden-level fundings to Democracy Fund that Trump had zeroed out. See? A lot of this money goes right back to NED and its core 4 affiliates. So the line item shows double funding of NED without being explicit. For a normal citizen, here's how to interpret the line items. For fiscal year 2025, enacted level of $315 million is the Biden level funded for 2025. Fiscal year request of $0 is the Trump request to Congress. Committee recommendation of $315 million is the uniparty returning to Biden's levels. We spend a lot of money on BS. If Congress was wasting the money on pure BS, it wouldn't be so bad for what they're really doing with it. Here's another one. It says, President Trump zeroed out all funding for the Organization of American States after a Chinese proxy became the Secretary General. So they want to do this, American states after a Chinese proxy became Secretary General in league with Marxist Latin American regimes. Republicans on the House Appropriations Committee just restored full $46 million funding to the OAS. So about 1:15 a.m., they're going to. Death Angel Shadow says the first tsunami waves were forecast to reach Hawaii just after 7:15 p.m. local time or 1:15 a.m. Eastern time. Yeah, they're funding the Democrat Party. It's obvious now. Yeah, that's the whole thing. All this money is getting cycled back to Democrats and their causes and these people that are protesting stuff. And where was the warning for the solar flare guy about the earthquakes today? We were learning for this, Jim. Actually, he did put out a warning. He did do a he did do a thing. He did do a thing. He did. I could show you. Oh, no, sorry. Wrong thing. No, why is it doing that to me? There we go. Better? Wait. No, let me do this.
Hey folks, there was just a massive earthquake near the Kamchatka Peninsula of Russia. It initially rang in at 8.0, but it has just been upgraded to 8.7. That makes the tsunami warnings and the buoys in event mode make a lot more sense. Pretty much right after the event occurred, the entire North Pacific buoy system just lit up. Some of the deviations are considerable and others are pretty minor. Either way, there will probably be tsunamis given the magnitude of the earthquake. Below this video, you will have a link to both the Buoy Data Center and the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center so you can be informed, stay up to date, monitor the situation yourself. I'll see you in the morning for the daily show. Be safe, everyone.
Then we'll go back and we'll look here, see what he did. We'll give that a like. Go back here and we'll go videos. And then 15 hours ago, there's this one, major alert, solar forcing of floods, solar eruptions, watch, quakes, storms. 2 days ago, we were talking about the quakes and storms. So it was all there for you to see, Dan. See?
Good morning, folks. Welcome, observers. Filament liftoff right now on the incoming limb, still in progress. Today we've got to look at the sun, solar winds, seismic activity, tropical storms, space weather in Sudan, and the auroral zone relationship to Earth's magnetic field. But we are starting, as always, with the last 24 hours on our star, and most of the day was quiet. Still not much flaring, mild coronal hole dark patch on the north, but at the very end of the sequence here, you'll see a pop near center disk and we'll zoom in and back out watching it. Did you see it? Small field break in coronal expansion means we almost certainly have another small CME heading towards the Earth. I'll be diagnosing that one today when coronagraphs update. Meanwhile, we already had a small CME en route, didn't we? Folks, that is one of the weirdest signatures of a solar wind interplanetary shockwave I have ever seen. Instead, it looks like the most pure phi angle flip I've ever seen. Blue line shifts and stays there. Not much in the way of density or plasma speed changes, and no geomagnetic disruptions as of yet. We'll keep an eye on it today. So let's head to seismicity, where yesterday we reported the 6.2 south of Australia, and then a few hours later, another one struck a bit east, south of New Zealand. The run of magnitude 6 events continues. We discussed this recently as well, tropical development in the East Pacific, and while we still advise seismic watch for the Americas over the next month, the storms themselves are organizing. First one will keep heading west and skirt south of Hawaii, but we've got eyes open on the development of the other two regions. This is cloud top mapping from GOES West. Here, you see the freight train line of storms building and charging to the west. When they start bending north, we'll know the major patterns are getting dangerous. Solid study up next on the power grids of Sudan. They are as vulnerable as any other, but this team also noted that the rare PC5 pulsations are the trigger for mid and low latitude effects that end up being significant. May go into those pulsations in a video later. Last but not least, shift in auroral zone based on a shift in the magnetic field. We already know it's been shifting, and we've had auroral anomalies to report for 27 months.
So be careful, everybody, because solar flares and all that stuff, it's going to get you. Going to get you. Going to get you. It's going to get you. Going to get you. All right, so President Trump zeroed out all the funding for the Organization of American States after a Chinese proxy became the Secretary General. And Republicans on the House Appropriation Committee just restored full $46,504 funding to the OAS. The House Subcommittee on Appropriations Committee Chairman, Representative Martino Diaz-Balart. Well, they did it all again. They just keep putting all the money back in. Oh, you're leaving? Dream Raid from Good Logic. Oh, cool. That was nice. The OAS was already woke, but now it's super woke under its new Chinese proxy leadership. It intends to use American tax dollars to spread DEI and wokeness through the hemisphere. Now that the House bill, do Republicans explain why they're restoring the $42 million to the Organization of American States? The OAS is mentioned only as a quiet line item for cash, page 22, and a candidate for even more voluntary cash for special programs. So you see, Trump tried to cut all this money, and they tried to. Right now, KPT, we're talking about that the Republicans in Congress are actually putting the money back in that Trump and DOGE pulled out. So, hey, look at that, 250 people here. Please hit the like. Please subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. We're going to cover some stories that Joe didn't get to tonight, so I hope you like them. And it says OAS still has a DEI office. The House Republican bill would make sure that's fully funded, even though it changes the name. The House Republican Appropriators restore full funding for the National Endowment for Democracy. Trump had asked for a zero. The House GOP puts back $315 million and lets Ned take in more cash through government contracts. This is ridiculous. Here's the actual wording of the appropriations. The committee restores full $315,000 and basically takes it away from the State Department, which is horrible. The House Republican Appropriations stuffs UNICEF under the National Security Information Investment Program to permit funding of the UN agency at unspecified levels. It avoids word searches by not saying UNICEF. So they're doing all this stuff. The House bill restores $356 million to Biden-level funding for Democracy Fund that Trump had zeroed out. A lot of this money goes right back to the NED and its core 4 affiliates. So the line item shows double funding of NED without being explicit. So right here it says fiscal year 2025 enacted level $345 million. Fiscal year 2026 request was $0. Trump wanted it zeroed out. DOGE zeroed it out. Remember? Committee's recommending going right back to 345, 200, and they're going to go right back. So all that stuff that they did, they're just keep putting it back, man. Just keep putting it back. Trump's trying to take it away, and the frickin' RINOs are betraying us all. It's just Cuban Americans in Congress are behaving strangely lately. First, Maria Elvar Salazar tried to amnesty bill for illegals move, and now from Fidel Castro's cousin, Mario Ballart, whatever. So what's up? Quesero, Taco Bell, or Cubanos? What is going on here? What the hell? You are shaming many of us Cuban Americans. This is crazy. Crazy stuff. And then here we go. For the normal citizens here, how to interpret the line items. Fiscal year 2025 enacted level of $315 million is the Biden level funded for 2025. Fiscal year 2026 request of $0 is the Trump request to Congress. Committee recommendation of $315 million is the uniparty returning it to Biden's levels. Can you name the derelicts who voted for this? Not yet, but it wouldn't have happened without the approval of the subcommittee chairman, Mario Diaz-Balart. All right, but there is some, there is a little bit of, and then here's Mike Benz saying that, ouch, this one hurts. After hundreds of scandals and documented abuses, NED comes out on the other side completely unscathed in its budget. GOP fully funding the loaded political shotgun pointed straight at Trump's agenda and supporters. Hijacking this thread to repost some prior threads. Can I get an idea why this hurts so much? Deciphering Ned's drop. What is Democratic backsliding? So this is what these people are doing. You know, the National Endowment for Democracy is a U.S. taxpayer-funded NGO with active members of Congress on its board. While it presents itself as a promoter of democracy, in practice, it's long serves as a front for the CIA, carrying out foreign influence operations that would be politically or legally unacceptable if done directly by the U.S. intelligence. They've documented extensively in threads and on Substacks. NED also works closely with George Soros' network of NGOs and has largely adopted his ideological agenda, especially overseas. They publish an academic journal, NED Journal of Democracy, which is extremely revealing. Yeah, it's seen as subsidizing the CIA. Yeah. New World Order, that is. The world order that dominated since the Cold War is based on the concept of open society versus closed society. Peace and national security is not measured in terms of absence or war or violence, but in terms of how many countries are in open society. It doesn't matter if a country elected its own leaders in a democratic or peaceful way. If they are not an open society, they are a closed society, and thus an enemy. It's a binary world. This is nuts. And I forgot to tell everybody that showed up from Joe's. Thank you for showing up. All the people here, welcome. Thank you for coming. And just so you know, there is a goal tonight on the show. I will extend the show past 2 hours to a 4-hour show if we get 10 super chats, $5 super chats, 10 $5 super chats. We already have one, so we need 9 more in the next half hour, and we will go an extra 2 hours with all the other topics. So it's up to you guys if you want it or not. I'll go a little longer, but we'll see what happens. Whatever. So we're going to keep looking at these stories here. And DOGE says House Republicans restoring $315 million to NED proves DC's addiction to funding globalist pet projects over American priorities. The State Department's fiscal year 2026 budget still includes $35.8 billion for international assistance, while border security gets crumbs. This isn't financial responsibility; it's bureaucratic malpractice. The same swamp creatures pushing 300,000 Lesotho pride parades and 4.4 million Melanesian climate cores won't let NED die. Real reform requires enforcing HR 3625's defunding mandate, not letting insiders preserve their influence, laundering, slush fund. Taxpayers fund American needs first. See which programs are getting protected and whose benefits most. This is nuts, right? I want to know which Republicans did is how. It says the House Republican Appropriations on the Foreign Affairs Subcommittee made this call. Yeah. The same establishment types who talk tough on fiscal responsibility during campaign season, but cave to DC pressure when it counts. These are Republicans who sit on appropriation committees and rubber stamp spending bills while pretending to fight government bloat. Meanwhile, real reformers like Representative Kane introduced H.R. 3625 to permanently defund NED, but committee leadership buried it. The appropriators chose to override Trump's $0 request and hand globalist influence operations another $315 million payday. Wow. Cut appropriation committee funding by 50% and force every member to justify their vote on the record. No more backroom deals where swamp Republicans can hide behind committee processes while burying taxpayer cash on foreign meddling operations. Every appropriator who voted yes should face primary challenges from America First candidates who won't betray voters the moment they get to Washington. These Republicans prove swamp runs deeper than party labels. That's right. This is what Elon Musk should be doing. All the people voting for this, Elon Musk should be primarying. This is the shit that Elon Musk said he was against. This is what he needs to target. Because if he just does third-party baloney, this doesn't get fixed. You go after these people. Yeah, the Diaz-Balart family are related. Diaz-Balart is Fidel Castro's cousin. Yeah. This is nutso stuff, man. Yeah. This is nutso stuff. General Mike Flynn says, we need to know all the congressional members who benefit from this and call them out for funding this. This is corruption at the highest level, once again, because they don't believe anyone is watching. Those days are over. They know nothing will be done because everyone in power is also compromised. The deep state won't investigate itself, and the people pretending to be going after the deep state are merely actors playing their assigned part in the production. It's why the news isn't news and why our money isn't money. It's why our selections are inconsequential and why nobody in the club ever goes to prison. Constitutional republic is a mirage. It's sad. It's sad. It's so sad. But this guy is doing something about it. This is Representative Eli Crane. He says, I will be submitting an amendment to defund NED when this bill moves to the House floor for a vote. Let's see where everyone stands. That's right. Everyone needs to pay attention to this and see who says what. It says right here, the National Endowment for Democracy's $167 million budget allocation under H.R. 1 raises serious accountability questions. While NED claims to advance democracy abroad, its opaque grant practices like funding the Disinformation Index Foundation, the targeted U.S. media outlets, prove systemic mission drift. Congress appropriated these funds for global freedom initiatives, not domestic political warfare against American voices. The Big Beautiful Bill's passage demands rigorous enforcement of fiscal discipline. Every dollar must serve sovereignty, not bureaucratic overreach. The funding NED isn't about partisan politics, it's about ending the cycle where taxpayer money fuels programs and undermines the very citizens funding them. When agencies operate without transparency or measurable impact, they become liabilities. Audit first, then decide if restructuring justified continued investments. That's right. Who gives examples of how NED funds unnecessary things the way USAID did? Yeah, well, it'll be nice. Eli Crane says the Uniparty is real. Let's defund the National Endowment for Democracy. Who's with me? House Republicans quietly restore full funding to the National Endowment for Democracy after Donald Trump said no funding. We started looking at all the political donations. National Endowment for Democracy, 95% to the left. There's only one party in Congress, the Uniparty.
So we started looking at all political donations from the State Department. We looked at them for USAID. And what did we find? For State Department, it was like 94% went to the left. At USAID, it was like 98% that went to the left. National Endowment for Democracy.
Hit that like button, people.
5% to the left. And then we started looking at all of the partners, the international NGOs, the contractors, and started looking at all of them, where the billions and billions are going. And 95, 98%. Even World Vision Catholic Relief Services, the vast majority, well over 90% of their political donations were going to the left. You look at the boards, they're all prominent people making very high salaries. So when you think about what's happened, the left, which was misusing USAID, and they're doing this across the federal government, misusing taxpayer money as a slush fund to finance their own people. And these are folks that can go out there, do the media, be the foot soldiers of the left, give money back. And so you had a one-sided uniparty apparatus here. funding only one side of the political equation. And thank you, U.S. taxpayer.
That's crazy, right? That's crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. It says the National Endowment for Democracy's funding patterns expose the core issue. Bureaucratic overreach prioritizing globalist agendas over national interests. While H.R. 1's $1.6 trillion in spending cuts mark progress towards fiscal sanity, backdoor maneuvers to restore NED's cash flow prove the swamp always finds new leaks. Audit records show 78% of net grants in 2020 went to organizations pushing progressive policy frameworks abroad while domestic infrastructures crumble. This isn't democracy promotion, it's a slush fund for ideological exports. The real scandal is $2.3 billion allocated to NED since 2021 could have funded 73 miles of border wall or equipped 2 Army brigades. America First means auditing every dollar flowing to NGOs that exist to launder taxpayer money into soft power schemes. Time to permanently drain the cesspool and redirect resources to Homeland Security, not foreign nation-building vanity projects. Receipts are undeniable. Right. Not merely an institutional story, a transformation one in which a new moral operating system has quietly replaced the old, convincing populations that expert coordinate are only benefits but necessary for their swift progress. That's right. These people are just doing all this stuff. And then stuff like this. That the National Endowment for Democracy's 40 million plus Latin American slush fund proves Washington's addiction to globalist meddling never stopped. It just got rebranded. H.R. 1's $1.6 trillion in cuts should have axed the CIA light operation entirely, but swamp creatures kept resuscitating it. NED isn't democracy promotion, it's taxpayer-funded regime change, with 95% of grants fueling leftist NGOs that destabilize sovereign nations while our border collapses. To fund the bureaucracy, secure the homeland, and end this shadow diplomacy. Real strength starts at home, not Caracas or Managua. This is nutso stuff. So on to the next story. We got another story coming up right here. It's Boasberg's turn. Yep, it's the heat is being applied to Boasberg. AG Pam Bondi has filed a misconduct complaint, a formal complaint against D.C. Chief Judge James Boasberg, to charge improper political interference in the middle of a major deportation case. Boasberg blocked Trump's use of the Alien Enemies Act to deport Venezuelan illegals linked to the U.S. designated terrorist group Tren de Aragua. Then he tried to hold Trump's team in contempt when flights kept going. The Supreme Court sided with Trump, but then it comes out that Boasberg made inappropriate political remarks during a March judicial conference alleging that Trump would disregard court rulings and cause a constitutional crisis. To the other federal judge ruling on the Trump cases in a closed-door meeting. DOJ says Boasberg tried to sway the Chief Justice himself, John Roberts, during active litigation. That's not just unethical, it's a clear breach of the Code of Judicial Conduct. The complaint also says that Boasberg rushed the government with less than 48 hours deadlines, threatened contempt jail, tried to appoint an outside prosecutor, did all this over an order already vacated by the Supreme Court of the United States. It's abuse of power, plain and simple. Trump used legal authority to deport illegal aliens tied to a terrorist gang. Boasberg tried to stop him, then tried to punish the administration for obeying the Supreme Court rulings. This isn't justice, it's resistance in robes. Bondi is fighting back. Now, the DOJ demands full investigation. Boasberg removed from the case, reassignment to a new judge. Trump was right all along. America's biggest threat isn't at the border, it's in Washington. That's right, these guys right here, they're the biggest threat. This is the first official misconduct complaint filed against a judge in the Trump administration. More is likely coming. Lawfare. Judge Boasberg violated a myriad of ethical rules by discussing a litigant with multiple cases before his court and with other judges who also have cases before them involving the same litigant, Trump. It's outrageous.
Justice of the United States John Roberts. It reads, while there, Judge Boasberg attempted to improperly influence Chief Justice Roberts and roughly 24 other federal judges by straying from the traditional topics to express his belief that the Trump administration would, quote, disregard rulings of federal courts and trigger a, quote, constitutional crisis. Attorney General Pam Bondi posting on social media, these comments have undermined the integrity of the judiciary, and we will not stand for that. Now, this is the second time the AG, Bondi, and the DOJ have gone after district court judges. Earlier this year, DOJ filed a complaint against another federal judge for alleged misconduct in a case challenging the White House policy barring transgenders from serving in the military. We reached out to Judge Boasberg. No comment from the judge or the court this morning, but this complaint will go to one step higher on the Court of Appeals, the chief judge there. Dana?
David Spunt at DOJ. Thank you.
That's interesting, right? Judge Boasberg is a very bad actor in a black robe, guilty of inherent bias, enabling malicious prosecution, lawfare, and multiple attempts at legislation from the bench. Remove him. Congress must act to prevent such judges from remaining in office. Yes, I agree. This is wild. Judges are supposed to stay impartial, not gossip about cases. This messes with the entire process and trust in the system. Congress would actually work and confirm all 134 judges. We might have a fighting chance against the lawfare. Oh, wait, they're gone for a month. Disgusting. Well, actually, if they were gone for a month, they're not actually gone. We have a story about that, too. They're not actually gone. They're doing pro forma sessions to keep Trump from doing recess appointments. This guy has a nice thread that I wanted to go through because I found it interesting. It says the DOJ is filing a misconduct complaint against Judge Jeb Boasberg. The charge, politicizing his role as chief judge to sabotage Trump. This isn't just corruption. It's a full-blown judicial coup. Here's the story. This guy has it 13 parts. Let's rewind. Judge Boasberg publicly claimed a judge must not work from a desired outcome. Then he tried to block deportations planes mid-flight, planes carrying gang members and terrorists because feelings. After the Supreme Court ruled that Boasberg had no jurisdiction, he lashed out, not at the criminals, at the DOJ lawyers who obeyed SCOTUS. He threatened them with discipline. That's not law, that's revenge. A leaked July memo that confirmed the worst. Boasberg and other D.C. judges had privately speculated Trump would defy court orders. Fact check. Trump's DOJ complied with every single ruling. Boasberg invented a constitutional crisis in his own head. Then it gets really shady. Boasberg was mysteriously randomly assigned 4 major Trump cases in a single week. There's got to be people in the chat. I mean, it says there's still 209 or 208 people here. He just took the case. He wasn't the only judge. An emergency ruling came in. He just took the case. He wasn't the only judge on duty. Reminder, it's the same judge who ran a FISA court during Russiagate, signed off on warrants based on the bogus Steele dossier, now targets Trump's people at every turn. Coincidence? No. Pattern? Absolutely. Now that DOJ has had enough, yesterday they announced that they will file a judicial misconduct complaint against Boasberg for politicizing his role and violating judicial ethics. A stunning move and long overdue. This isn't just about Boasberg, though. It's about the federal judiciary that's been weaponized for political warfare. What they couldn't win at the ballot box or in court, they're trying to win by sabotaging the system itself. Boasberg turned the D.C. court into an anti-Trump operations center, interfered with deportations, threatened DOJ lawyers, hijacked emergency cases, speculated about defiance that never happened, repeatedly inserted himself in litigation that involved Trump. He said the law comes before politics, but everything he's done proves the opposite. He's not protecting democracy, he's protecting a corrupt machine, and he just got caught. The DOJ's misconduct complaint is just step one. Boasberg should be removed from all Trump-related cases, be stripped of his chief judge role, be impeached for abuse of judicial power. We don't stop this now, the black robe becomes a political weapon. The bench is rigged, the coup was quiet, the exposure is loud. The American people are watching now, and the system isn't as untouchable as it thought. That guy's got to go. Until someone does something. Here's the text of the judicial complaint Chad Mizell filed on behalf of AG Pam Bondi against Boasberg. It says, Chief Judge Sturva Nervison, pursuant to 28 U.S.C. rules for judicial conduct and proceedings, the Department of Justice respectfully submits this complaint alleging misconduct by a U.S. District Judge, James Boasberg, for improper public comments. On March 11th, Boasberg attended a special session. While there, Boasberg attempted to improperly influence Chief Judge Roberts. What should really happen is since this is filed, it says his words violate the canon, and Chief Judge violation of judicial canon, ensuing judicial actions over the next 5 weeks following a very scripted sketch out in the conference in his docket and all this stuff. But really what needs to happen here is what really needs to happen here is Congress actually needs to call Boasberg in, Chief Justice Roberts, and all the other judges that were at this conference to start questioning them about what was said. Get them on the record. See if they lie. Charge them with perjury. Do something. And then impeach them. That's what really needs to happen. Exclusive memo reveals D.C. judges are predisposed against the Trump administration. We might read that. While the DOJ outlined strong arguments for Boasberg to be removed from all Trump cases and to be investigated for unprofessional bias, the rules of court procedures bar a judge from discussing any substantive matters of a case without the presence of both parties. And if there's an ex-parte communication, it must be disclosed to both parties. This is to preserve the sense of fairness. Boasberg did not do this. Would have been better if he'd cited your article instead of a Fox News clip. Docket and referred to the complaint to the Special Investigating Committee under Rule 59 requires essential to determine whether Boasberg's conduct constitutes prejudicial and effective expeditious admission of the courts. Order interim corrective measures during the investigation, including reassignment of all related cases. That's good. I am a resistance. That's what Judge Boasberg says. I am a resistance. There's a thread on, but she's going to say on why I didn't release a memo summarizing the judicial conference. Apparently, some folks are suspicious of why I didn't publish a memo, so here's a thread explaining it. On footnote 2 from a DOJ complaint suggests any summary of the judicial conference was lengthy, and the memorandum I reviewed was as well. Nearly 20 pages of internal discussions, none of which had anything to do with Boasberg's comments. Those discussions provided neither content or context to Boasberg's comments and were either held no news value or, in my judgment, my editor had nothing to do with the length of issue and slight. As former career law clerk working for 25 years for a federal appellate judge, I was extremely sensitive to that concern. Oh, good for her. Hey, yeah, you're here, KPT. Oh my God, we are here. Yeah. So she's just saying, I'm a clear law clerk, and I would have did it, but I didn't see anything there. And reporting on Boasberg's comments for all the reasons detailed in the DOJ letter was justified as they revealed a predisposition by his colleagues against defendants. My story reported the entirety of Boasberg's comments and Justice Roberts' response to his concern. I've retyped a section from the memorandum to protect sources. That's precisely as I reported, nothing more, nothing less. Again, with my editor, I walked the entire document to consider whether publishing it was justified. We decided against it for reasons detailed above, and frankly, legitimate concern I had over safety of judges and potential harassment alone made the right call. Also, they're worried about judges being harassed for planning a coup behind closed doors against the president. Well, we'll find out Chief Judge Servet Verzesin as Chief Judge of the D.C. Circuit is on the judicial conference, meaning if he was at the working breakfast with Roberts, he would have heard these comments. However, the memo does not identify by name attendees. Well, that's why you got to call them in. They got to question them, find out who was there. The memo indicates that not all members of the conference attended the breakfast. Bottom line, Boasberg's comments revealed colleagues of the D.C. Circuit had bias against the litigant. That was and is extremely newsworthy. Judge Verzesin can take it from here. I assume the memo was shared with the DOJ social media. So I didn't share it with the DOJ. Here's Bill Holloway says, I still have not seen any motions to accuse these judges for their expressed bias against the president. Perhaps I missed it. Attorney General, today at my direction, the Justice Department filed a misconduct complaint against Court Chief Judge Boasberg for making improper public comments about the President Trump and the administration. These comments have undermined the integrity of the judiciary, and we will not stand for that. The Federalist Reports gets results. Our senior legal correspondents broke the explosive news about Boasberg's inappropriate comments. Judicial integrity hinges on impartiality, not partisan posturing. The Judicial Ethics Enforcement Act of 2025 exists precisely to root out misconduct like Boasberg's alleged bias. Jim tells you in Joe's chat we had our entire YY names. I don't know what that means. What does that mean? Oh, Joe's chat, you were KP times with numbers. I don't know why, what that's all about. I don't know what that's all about. Yeah. Oh, maybe because do I not have top fans enabled? Oh, something happened with the crowns, maybe? The crowns For some reason, the crowns are not activated. I don't know why. Someone has a crown, but it doesn't. It's like not a. I don't know. It's something to do with the crowns, maybe. Maybe it's something to do with the crowns. Judicial integrity hinges on impartiality, not partisan posturing. The Judicial Ethics Reform Act 2025 exists precisely to root out misconduct like Boasberg's. Bonnie's complaint aligns with HR 1811's mandate for oversight, exposing how DC's judges weaponize their benches against America First policies. When a chief judge publicly undermines a sitting administration, it's not collegiality, it's corruption. DOJ's action proves systemic rot, bureaucrats masquerading as neutral arbiters while sabotaging executive authority. Transparency is not optional, it's non-negotiable. Every taxpayer-funded role must answer to accountability, not act as a shield for ideological warfare. The facts behind these judicial power plays demand daylight. That's right. And then Chad Mazzell says, Judge Boasberg first tried to persuade Chief Judge Roberts and other federal judges that the Trump administration would not follow court orders, despite having no basis for this belief. Then he acted on his baseless belief again and again in litigation over which he was presiding. Judge Boasberg violated the canons of code of conduct for United States judges, including a requirement that he promote public confidence in integrity and impartiality of the judiciary. Today, at the direction of the Attorney General, DOJ, I filed judicial misconduct complaint against him. Well, if he's doing all this stuff, wouldn't that mean that he's not serving in good behavior and so that he could be removed for that reason? Shouldn't Congress take care of that? Federal judges often complain about the decline of public trust in the judiciary, but if the judiciary simply ignores improper conduct like Judge Boasberg's, it will have itself to blame when the public stops trusting it. That's right. All right, on to the next story here. This is about incitement. Democrats are desperate to reveal the identity of federal immigration agents to put their lives and the lives of their families in danger. Michigan Democrats are proposing legislation that would allow them to jail masked agents for 90 days. It says Michigan Democrats want to detain masked ICE agents for 90 days.
State Capitol would ban the use of face masks for all law enforcement officers interacting with the public. The bill mandates officers must display their name or badge number, full name or initials. Now, this would not apply to undercover operations where an officer must conceal their identity to investigate and gather evidence of criminal activity. If passed, a violation of the law would be punishable by up to 90 days behind bars and a fine of up to $1,000. State Capitol would ban the use of
This is going to give the Democrats and these people a quick lesson in the Supremacy Clause. You know, this right here, that the Michigan Democrats bill to jail masked ICE agents is reckless political theater that endangers law enforcement and violates the constitutional authority. ICE officers wear masks to protect themselves from violent gangs like MS-13 and Tren de Aragua, not to hide from scrutiny. Federal law supersedes state interference, and DHS has confirmed assaults on ICE personnel have surged 830% amid these politically motivated attacks. Democrats aren't pushing transparency, they're enabling harassment, doxing, and violence against officers enforcing immigration law. This unconstitutional overreach ignores the Supremacy Clause, and even Newsom admits similar efforts lack legal footing. When officers conduct raids targeting violent criminals, their safety isn't optional, it's essential. Grandstanding politicians prioritizing open border activism over national security should focus on stopping cartels, not sabotaging federal agents doing their jobs. See how political posturing puts the federal agents at work, at risk. Mm-hmm. There's this one. Michigan State Rep Betsy Kofia has introduced a bill to prosecute ICE agents for wearing masks and conceal their identities. She says the state police would be able to enforce it because they're operating in the sovereign state of Michigan. So this lady thinks that that Michigan is sovereign from the. And I want you to notice what do we have here? We got fat woman, fat woman, fat woman, fat woman, fat woman. I don't know what this is, and a gay guy.
The way it is written is applying to all levels of law enforcement. They're operating in the state of Michigan, the sovereign state of Michigan. And the bottom line is that the people of Michigan, we do not want or need secret police, masked, unidentified people snatching our neighbors off the street.
Okay.
We have.
What are the enforcement mechanisms in this bill? Like if federal law enforcement comes into Michigan and breaks Michigan law, who would prosecute that? What would the penalties be?
So
The laws that are broken in Michigan, we would enforce with our law enforcement, just like any other crime. So the way it is written.
Yeah. So it's this lady thinks that the state police are going to go and arrest federal agents. State Rep Kofia's bill is pure political theater, attacking ICE agents for basic operational security while violent gangs target them. Federal law 10 U.S.C. 12406 explicitly authorized ICE to conduct enforcement with necessary protective gear, including masks, when facing threats from groups like Tren de Aragua. Michigan's hypocrisy is glaring. They fined citizens $500 for not wearing masks during COVID, but now criminalize agents using them to prevent retaliation. DHS confirms masked agents verbally identify themselves and wear labeled vests, vehicles. This isn't secret police, it's protecting officers from cartel hit lists. Federal operations aren't subject to state vetoes. Enforcement happens because sanctuary policies created the crisis. Prioritize lawfulness over performative obstruction. The facts behind ICE's authority and Michigan's double standards demand a closer. Betsy Kafia, Michigan Democrat state rep, is introducing a bill to prosecute ICE agents who wear face coverings. Assaults against ICE agents have Scott right. She knows exactly what she's doing. Yep, she does. This is attacking ICE agents for basic operational security where violent gangs target them. ICE officers were masked to avoid retaliation from cartels like Tren de Aragua, not to confuse communities. Hypocrisy is staggering. Yeah, they find them. DHS confirmed assaults are up 240% in 2025. Instead of addressing criminal networks fueling the violence, this isn't about accountability. It's about sabotaging enforcement. When agents can't safely execute warrants, chaos wins. Secure borders, letting ICE do their job, not letting their vulnerability. Yeah. Double standards incredible. An average person cannot advocate for others to attack or dox federal agents. These aren't security officers. They're sworn federal law enforcement officials. The mask ban. The LA County Board of Supervisors on Tuesday voted 4-0 with one abstention to direct county council to draft an ordinance that bars officers, including federal agents, from wearing masks, with limited exceptions such as for medical protection or during undercover operations. Oh, the irony. 5 years ago, you were requiring law enforcement to chase people down if they weren't wearing a mask for bullet BS that was the COVID scandemic. LA is such a joke. It deserves to fail. But the shoplifters are still more welcome to wear their masks, right? They have absolutely no power over the federal officers. This is political theater to not talk about. Why weren't they firefighting assets pre-stage? Why were the reservoirs empty? Are they still? Why were the hydrants dry? Why are there 0 houses under construction? In Altadena, look at the clowns. Oh, a bunch of clowns. The actions of apply to the U.S. Constitution is for dummies. Good luck with that. Not enforceable with the federal government. Wonder why they want agents demasked, but it's okay. Here's the story of a ding dong ding dong. Dun, 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 dun. LA County supervisors vote to bar immigration agents from wearing masks. LA County leaders want to prohibit law enforcement officers from concealing their identities while on duty in response to recent immigration raids during which some federal agents refused to identify themselves or cover their faces. Board of Supervisors voted Tuesday 4-0 with one abstention to direct County Council to draft an ordinance that bars officers, including federal agents, from wearing masks, with limited exceptions for medical. Officer would also be required to visibly display identification and agency affiliation while out in the public. Since early June, immigration agents have swarmed Southern California, arresting hundreds of people and prompting protests against the federal raids and the subsequent deployment of the National Guards and Marines. About half the Guard troops and all the Marines were pulled out of LA in recent weeks. Supervisor Janice Hahn, who co-authored the motion, said the raids carried out by ICE by the Trump administration have sparked fear, and residents have a right to know who is stopping, questioning, and detaining them. Across the county, people are being pulled out of their cars, beaten, and ripped from their families by men in tactical gear with balaclavas, no badges, no names. That's not how law enforcement and democracy should operate. I concluded that it's unclear if the county will be able to enforce the law when it comes to actions by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and other federal agencies. Ultimately, it might have to be decided by a court, she said. Legal scholar Erwin Chemerinsky said Tuesday that the court could have to decide if the ordinance is interfering with the ability of officers to carry out their duties. The key is that it has to apply to all law enforcement. It can't just apply to federal law enforcement, said Chemerinsky, the dean of law at the University of California, Berkeley. There's this thing called a supremacy clause, Chairman Zowski, and you're supposed to be a constitutional scholar or you're a law person. And you don't know that the local government cannot put restrictions on what the federal government can do. That's not how it works. Dumb son of a... Administration officials have defended the practice of officers wearing masks, saying immigration agents have faced harassment as they've gone about their enforcement. Officials say agents are hiding their identities for their safety to avoid things like death threats and doxing, where someone's personal information is released without their permission on the internet. I'm sorry if people are offended by them wearing masks, but I'm not going to let my officers and agents go out there and put their lives on the line, their family on the line, because people don't like what immigration enforcement is. ICE Acting Director Todd Lyons said last month. In state legislation, pending measure would ban local, state, and federal police from covering their faces while conducting operations in California. And a similar bill has been introduced in the U.S. Congress by Democrat Senators Alex Padilla and Cory Booker of New Jersey. Shermanovsky said the advantage of federal legislation that would be clearly be constitutional because Congress has the power to regulate how federal law enforcement operates. Yeah, exactly. Congress does, not no states. And if you think that that's going to get passed and that Trump would sign it, you're high. And do you think they're going to do this when they're going to pass that bill when some other president comes in? Oh, hell no. Supervisor Hilda Solis, who's the measure's other co-author, said local officials must set expectations about how law enforcement should conduct themselves while in the county. Use of masks, tactical gear, and refusal to show identification is not only alarming and confusing, but erodes the public trust, raises serious self-safety concerns. The 8.8 earthquake in the Russia Far East sets off. ICE agents are operating with sovereign federal jurisdiction, which is outside state jurisdiction. In addition, federal law preempts state law to the contrary. And in the case of immigration law, it fully occupies the field preempting any state law regarding immigration. There's the cases in Justice Strong and Cole v. U.S. 91 U.S. 367 and 1875 stated, in Abelman v. Booth, Chief Justice Taney described plain language the complex nature of our government and the existence of two distinct and separate sovereignties within the same territorial space, each of them restricted in their powers and each within the sphere of action prescribed by the Constitution of the United States, independent of the other. Neither is under necessity of applying to the other for permission to exercise its lawful powers within their own sphere. It may employ all the agencies for exerting them for which the appropriate is necessary and which are not forbidden by the law of its being. Dobbs v. whatever Erie County, the general government of the states, although both exist within the same territorial limits, are separate and distinct sovereignties, acting separately and independently of each other within their respective spheres. The former, in its appropriate sphere, is supreme, but the states, within the limits of their powers not granted or in the language of the 10th Amendment reserved, are as independent of the general government as the government within its sphere as independent states. It's an axiomatic that in America the powers of sovereignty are divided between the government of the Union and those of the states. They are each sovereign with respect to objects committed to it, and neither sovereign with respect to objects committed to the other. All right, on to the next story. We got the Democrats, because they hate cops and everything. So Senator Booker just objected to floor passage of 5 unanimously passed Judiciary Committee police work bills because he wants Department of Justice funds to go to sanctuary cities. All these bills have bipartisan support and are non-controversial. Recess for 10 days and let Trump get his nominees through via recess. Senator Booker's objections to these bipartisan police bills include S-419's mental health support for officers and S-1563 staffing solutions exposes the hypocrisy of prioritizing sanctuary city funding over frontline law enforcement needs. These aren't non-controversial. DC insiders use them as bargaining chips to divert DOJ resources to political pet projects. Backing the blue means passing reforms that actually protect officers, not leveraging their safety to funnel cash into jurisdictions undermining federal immigration enforcement. Grassley's right. Real support requires prioritizing accountability, not performative resistance dressed as a progress. Booker needs to be taken behind the shed. And Senator Booker objected to multiple bipartisan bills that protect first responders and give law enforcement tools to keep America safe. It's unfortunate that Senate Democrats are putting politics ahead of police officers. Let's hear what Spartacus has to say.
That's why I'm standing here. Don't question my integrity. Don't question my motives. I'm standing for Jersey. I am standing for my police officers. I'm standing for the Constitution, and I'm standing for what's right. And dear God, if you want to come at me that way, you're going to have to take it up with me, because there's too much on the line right now in America. As people's due process rights and freedom of the speech rights and secret police are running around this country, picking people up off the streets who have a legal right to be here. There's too much going on in this country. That's why I'm standing here.
No, they're not. The people they're picking up do not have a legal right to be here, Corey. That's the problem. At this exact moment, the flag draped coffin of NYPD officer Islam was being transferred to a funeral home. Bagpipes were playing. Everyone stood and saluted. There's no excuse for Booker's behavior. They're so performative. I bet you 50 that 80% of the people on here just watch, no sound. They watch bad, ridiculous acting. No, we're senator. Cory Booker don't do anything but grandstand you. I've never done anything for New Jersey or America. You couldn't help this country best by resigning. Oh, let's see.
There's too much on the line right now in America. As people's due process rights and freedom of the speech rights and secret police are running around this country, picking people up off the street.
Okay. Well, that was every story. Hey, John Mosley for $10. How you doing? Thank you very much, very very much. I'm gonna open up some more tabs to keep going for at least another hour or so. So give me a minute, give me 1 second here. I got to close some tabs and open up some more tabs. So this will take a couple seconds. But I don't know anyone. So yeah, there's a big tsunami headed to. It looks like it's going to hit Hawaii. Looks like it's going to hit Hawaii. And fix Jim. What's wrong with Jim? What did I do? Right? Oh. 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 Man, I don't know what I did here. All right, so that was that. Boasberg feels some heat. Booker's and saying Trump just knew. Okay, so we got this one. It's a good one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Here, I'll do this, so that you guys can see what I'm doing here. These are all the tabs I'm opening, just so you guys can see what's going on here. See? Mm-hmm. What did I do? Open this one, open this one. Then conspiracy against Trump is ongoing. Open this one, this one, this one. This one is Jim Comey's a terrible person. Every major police department is led by DEI hires. So that's a good one. This one. This one. This one. This one. This one. New Jersey is seizing family farms to build affordable housing. Okay, we'll do that one. Election integrity, Act Blue accused of money laundering. Oh, that's a good one. We'll do that one. SCOTUS set to stage for historic term. That's a good one. All right. Antifa gets treated with kid gloves. Al Sharpton denies being a crook. New York becomes the first state to ban gas stoves. Oh, we'll do this now. Here we go. Ready? Here we go. Ready? All right. That's a bunch of tabs. Yes. This is what I do. This is what I do, guys. I get all those tabs. I get all the stuff lined up, and I get them out. And I actually, if you guys don't know, people here, I help out several people, not Joe's not the only person I send tabs and stories and links to. I send them to other people too. Eventually those people will hopefully say something and help me out and help to grow my channel, because that's why I do this, is to just grow my channel and bring you guys the news, because I enjoy bringing you the news and have fun. So you want a gas stove? I wish I had a gas stove. It's only electric here down here, but Jim is everywhere on the internet. He goes, man, what did I do? I just lost 20 people watching because nobody likes me anymore. Trump just went nuclear on the Green New Deal. The EPA is moving to repeal the legal foundation of climate regulation itself. $1 trillion in green tyranny gone. Lee Zeldin calls it the largest regulatory action in American history. Here's what it means. Okay. Obama EPA made up the endangerment finding in 2009. It claimed that CO2 was a threat to human health. That one finding became the legal pretext for everything. EV mandates, gas stove bans, tailpipe regulations, stupid airline rules, power plant shutdown. All that guy right there. All Obama. Old bumhead. Trump's EPA administrator, Lee Zeldin, just proposed ripping it out by the roots. He says the finding was twisted science, legal overreach, $1 trillion tax working Americans. Yes, we're all going to be rich. They're going to give us all rebates from all the tariffs. That's what they're going to do. He's right. The one rule gave the left control over half the economy. What happens after the repeal goes through? $54 billion saved per year. Climate mandates gone. EV coercion reversed. Power returned to states and consumers. Major blow to globalist ESG rules. In short, the death of key deep state power grab. Yeah, and look at that. Look at AOC's mouth, man. And she can really take one in there, huh? Lee Zeldin says there are people who, in the name of climate change, are willing to bankrupt the country. That's not hyperbole. The endangerment finding got unelected bureaucrats to wage war on energy, agriculture, and transportation without even passing a law. Of course, the climate coal is melting down. The Environmental Defense Fund is calling it an existential threat. You know what that means. The repeal is working. Yeah, she could get 2 or 3 in there, right? No problem. This is Trump's biggest kill shot yet against the administrative state. It's not about climate. It's about who governs, voters and their reps, or unelected bureaucrats hiding behind fake science and 14-year-old memos. On to the next story. First, I got to do this. There we go. Okay. On to the next story. CIA vet Susan Miller claims Trump and Tulsi are lying, re the sham ICA, because we definitely had the intel to show with high probability that specific goal of the Russians was to get Trump elected. Really? Here's the intel, and it was an unverified fragment. How the Obama mission turned unverified report to the Russian collusion. In ancient Athens, capital crimes were tried in the Areopagus, or whatever it is. Motivations and mitigating circumstances weren't considered relevant. All that mattered was, did you commit treason or did you not commit treason? Susan is precisely the type of spook who should have never been hired into the IC. Major reform is required. Until we do this to people for treason, this crap will never stop. The media cover-up is just too strong. Bring Susan Miller to testify in front of Congress. She'll probably just plead the fifth. If she's a current employee at the CIA, she must be purged for lying. This in November, ex-CIA spook Susan Miller, who said she wrote the now discredited ICA on Trump Russia, will receive the Hidden Hero Award. She's a hidden hero, you see, from the International Spy Museum in D.C., which recognizes those who make outsized contributions to the intelligence community. That's her. Look at her. And the other liar. They visited the museum. While it's very cool, they also have on display woke crap and nonsense from the Russia collusion hoax. I think it's time Donald Trump and DOGE take a hard look. More hilarious than the award is the board of directors, a few gems. Michael Hayden, Admiral Peters, Max Boot, all these weirdos. It says, news, Susan Miller left, who claims to have authored Brennan's now discredited intelligence assessment, is close friends with Democrat megadonor and Obama appointee Carolyn Kennedy. Hey, what do you know? They're best friends, Carolyn Kennedy. And that's why clout chasing, virtue signaling, corrupt PO's Karen did this to her cousin RFK Jr. Yep, that's why she did all this. Yep. A liberal white feminist who almost caused a thermonuclear world war. That's right. Yeah. Breaking. Susan Miller, the Trump-hating XCI analyst who's said to have been the lead drafter of the now discredited dossier supporting ICA on Trump, is BFF with Carolyn Kennedy and also helped write the Mueller report. She still has top-secret clearance and is training new CIA recruits. And I'm told she has many different stories. It's impossible to even know what she's saying. This woman is all over the place, like the bipolar Bradshaw character from Homeland. She was criminally prosecuted by Bill Barr. Never. She headed up the ICA rewrite team, but never researched dossier because that's the FBI job. Leon Panetta is her favorite CIA director. Bizarre. That's all over the place. She keeps having all these stories, talking about all this stuff. She's a career CIA analyst and knows nothing about the laptop letter. That's bullshit. Susan sent in a puff piece about herself at the beginning of the month. She's up to something. The Mustang News counterintelligence, where in 2006 she authored the initial report proving the Russians interfered in the 2016 election in an attempt to sway the election in Donald Trump's favor. She's admitting that she wrote that report that everyone says was bullshit. She was grilled for 8 hours during the historic Barr Durham trial in which President Trump pressured then Attorney General into pressing criminal charges against her. Now that she's retired and retains the same security clearance as U.S. presidents minus nuclear stuff, Miller reached out to Muskie News to share her story, explaining how does she retain the same clearance as presidents? That doesn't make any sense. Dictators, Nazis, and Hitler. Several posts reveal anti-Trump leanings of the CIA officer who supervised drafting of the CIA Russiagate intel report. If you read this article, it talks about Susan Miller, retired CIA agent. She still has a security clearance. Trump should revoke it. I wonder how many current members of the spy agencies feel this way about half the American people. Breaking. CNN Russia report leader still embraces Steele dossier, calls Trump a dictator and MAGA Nazis. This woman is all over the place like the boy. Oh, we all profile. Yeah, we already read that. Bipolar. Yeah, we read that one. Okay. Here's the story. Social media posts unmask anti-Trump sentiments of CIA officer who helped draft the Russian intel report.
Governor, you've been preparing for. We were doing under Donald and South Carolina.
Retired CIA spy. That was weird. That was really weird. It says my connection's unstable, but I have fiber and I'm direct connection, so I don't know what's going on. With the retired CIA spy who said she led a team that helped draft the controversial 2016 U.S. intelligence community assessment on Russian election meddling, has called Donald Trump a dictator and MAGA supporters Nazis, and insisted the now discredited Steele dossier might be true. Susan Miller, a recently retired CIA counterintelligence officer, has taken to social media and news media interviews in recent days to tell her story of how she was allegedly handpicked by former CIA Director John Brennan to lead the team would help draft the ICA in late 2016, gleefully exposing her anti-Trump sentiments. She has repeatedly suggested Trump might be a Russian asset or a Kremlin asset without providing any evidence. Despite recent reports showing that calmer, less politically driven voices in the intelligence community at the time cast doubt on such allegations, but were squelched by Brennan. Hey, Spuds, what's up? Nice to see you here, buddy. Good to see you. Deep State doesn't like me exposing them. Yeah, I don't know what that was all about. That was weird. Miller has also repeatedly claimed in recent weeks that British ex-spy Christopher Steele's anti-Trump dossier might be true, despite the dossier having been thoroughly discredited for years now by a special prosecutor, congressional probes, and even the CIA itself. She also claimed that some officials inside the CIA, who she refused to name, had wanted her ICA team to declare that Trump's win was illegitimate due to Russian meddling. She has admitted that Although the ICA did not come to that conclusion, she had suggested that her team may have been able to reach that finding if they'd been able to poll every single voter to see if they had been swayed by Russian meddling. According to the University of California at Santa Barbara, 136,787 people voted in the 2016 election. Mueller had also sent mixed messages saying that the ICA team had found no collusion when they were writing their assessment in late 2016, and even claimed that this no collusion finding made clear in the ICA. In fact, the ICA's major reference to collusion was direct citation to a 2-page annex on the CIA and the Steele dossier. The 2016 ICA was written at the direction of President Barack Obama and largely overseen by Brennan, then Director of the National Intelligence James Clapper and since fired FBI Director James Comey. It was finished in December 2016 with a publicly declassified version released in early 2017 and a more extensive classified version declassified and released last week. Miller said she helped lead the 2016 ICA investigative team. Yeah, she needs to be brought in for questioning and be charged with the part of the conspiracy. Comey and former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe have pushed in December to include Steele's debunked dossier in the 2016 ICA on alleged Russian meddling. The dossier was included in an annex to the assessment and was directly referred to in the most highly classified version of the ICA. The newly declassified House Intelligence Committee report, the recent CIA review referred to as the Lessons Learned report by current Director John Ratcliffe, sharply criticized Brennan for joining the avowed anti-Trump forces in the FBI by pushing to include Steele's dossier in the 2016 ICA. That inclusion was made over the objection of Russia experts in the Obama administration's intelligence community. Who's eating the dogs and eating the cats? Similarly, the House report also sharply criticized the failure in the analytic tradecraft behind the ICA's conclusion that Putin had personally aspired to help Trump win in 2016. Mueller had also said she doesn't remember basic facts about the ICA timeline, including when Trump was first elected and when the CIA and her ICA team allegedly first received reported key intelligence about Putin's motivations. Mueller even forgot whether the intelligence had come in before or after Trump's win. She also couldn't remember if the ICA team led had access to intelligence on personal directive from Putin himself or not. Mueller decried Ratcliffe's lesson learned review as a political hit job and claimed that none of it was true before admitting that key allegations from Ratcliffe's report, including that about Brennan insisting the dossier be included in the ICA, were probably accurate. Mueller told the Spy Talk podcast in July that I headed up the report team. I wanted people who would speak truth to power. She contended that all of us went in with a completely open mind, but that the Russians definitely wanted him. Miller and anti-Trump posts were unearthed by Just the News after the chairman of the President's Intelligence Advisory Board, former Rep. Devin Nunes, told Just the News that he wanted to make sure that spies who abuse their powers are stripped of their security clearances. Miller's LinkedIn profile lists her as a retired senior CIA officer with full clearance. Just the News asked Miller a detailed question about her claims that Trump is a dictator, might be a Russian or Kremlin asset, that MAGA supporters are Nazi, the Steele dossier might be true despite being debunked. Just the News also asked her about her clear anti-Trump bias, whether that bias may have impacted drafting of the ICA, and what her relationship is with a number of Hunter Biden laptop letter signers with whom she had interacted on LinkedIn, whether she believes it was irresponsible to be suggesting the Steele dossier was legitimate, whether she acknowledged that the dossier was cited in the ICA, and whether she was involved in any analysis related to the foreign influence in the 2020 election as well. Miller's full statement to Just the News in response was as follows. I was originally pro-Trump and a solid Republican since I could start voting. I even voted for him in the first election. Their comments are mean-spirited and uninformed. Our constitutional limits the president to 2 terms. Trump is already talking about a 3rd term. I refuse to put the dossier in our report as it couldn't be corroborated. Sorry to ruin your view of me as a left-wing Republican hater. I was overseas on a tour from 19 to 22. I know nothing about the laptop letter, but we'll look it up. So she's a liar. Miller later has used her LinkedIn account to repeatedly attack Trump since leaving the CIA last year. And New York Times wrote an article made to FBI dismantles elite public corruption squad. Miller's response on LinkedIn, this is awful. Further proof Trump is a dictator. Miller also supported analogies between Trump and Adolf Hitler. An ABC article in February said the diplomatic security service is being targeted for firing. Why that matters. A commentator from the UK said, I'm just a Brit, you know, the little island off the coast of Europe that stood up to Hitler. I have to say that harming DSS would be equivalent to shooting yourself in the foot. Miller replied, yeah, the Hitler analogy is not lost on a bunch of us, sadly. Miller referred to an attempt in February to stop FBI Director Kash Patel from being confirmed as a righteous effort, but that I fear it will fall on deaf ears. Last month, she also commented on a New York Times article about the DOJ newly formed weaponization group, with Miller saying, this is terrifying for our democracy. Anyone who says our democracy like that, I think should be, Trump terminates programs tracking mass abductions of Ukrainian children. Miller coming in. And if we need more proof of his lack of empathy and his high regard for a dictator, he has dictator envy, clearly. What? Oh, I mean, is she saying that Zelensky's a dictator? The article in the New York Times said CIA fires top doctor targeted by far-right activists. Lawyer Kevin Carroll quoted the article saying, plaintiff and her family suffered terrible injustice only because her good service to our country made her a target for political extremists who defamed her and called for her termination and of her employment and even her death, Mr. Carroll wrote in a complaint. Miller replied, good grief, we need more proof that MAGA types are Nazis, calling for her death? So wrong. I hope she's okay. Miller sarcastically referred to Trump as our leader earlier this month when criticizing the State Department's decision to fire numerous employees. She made it clear in a June post, I'm not a Trump fan. This is disturbing indeed. Good grief, this is terrible. In June, on a longtime friend of disgraced FBI agent Peter Strzok resigning from the FBI after he said the Bureau intended to polygraph him about his ties to Strzok. Miller agreed in February with the sentiments of the commenter who said, the cruelty and sadistic pleasure at this point is crude. It's about as un-American and unpatriotic as you get. Despite this, Miller's repeatedly claimed that she is a Republican, including on LinkedIn, where she said in June that I'm a Republican. I'm not a fan of the Democrat Party. She's just a liar. I'm still a registered Republican. I'm going to be honest. Yeah, just like Comey was a registered Republican. He wore the I'm with her shirts. Yeah. I'm going to be honest. I like their policies better than the Democrats now. I'd vote for Trump if he wasn't for some of his actions. Self-described ICA team leader has repeatedly suggested Trump is a Russian asset or Kremlin asset, although she has not appeared to have provided evidence for allegations. There's a number of times he's acting like a Kremlin asset. In a Radio Times interview posted earlier in July. And I give examples back in 2015-16 when my team and I were finding in the paper, in our intelligence, I should say, that there was clear evidence that the Russians were trying to influence it on the President Trump towards President Trump that year. So she's saying that she was doing work on this in 2015, 2016. She's a liar. Oh, Joe, okay. Well, good night, Joe. Thanks for stopping by. Within a month, when about a month he took office, he tried to put me and my team in jail. He put us on trial. We didn't know what our crime was supposed to be, but it was harassment at a minimum. When asked directly again during the interview whether Trump is a criminal aspect, I have seen some things I don't. I'm still working out whether it's or not it's true. But yes, there's been some information that's been out there, that's been on the web and some other things that make it look like he could be. There's some posting I want to say a month or two ago that made it sound like he might be something there. Trump wants to be very much like Putin, the sort of president for life. I think he likes the power Putin has. That's all about all I can say for right now. Miller told the New York Times in March that Trump is autocrat envy, and Trump likes Putin because Putin has control over his country, and Trump wants control over his country. John Cipher, a former CIA officer who signed the notorious Hunter Biden letter crafted by Biden's campaign operatives, commented on LinkedIn in May, not giving Ukraine enough weapons is bad. Siding with the Kremlin and screwing our allies is something altogether worse. Miller replied, John Cipher, yes, the president is siding with Russians. In an article by Mediaite in May, headline, Trump orders Hexet Bani to determine how military can be used in domestic law enforcement. Good grief, as if we need more proof Trump is in love with Russia. The user posted on LinkedIn that Sino-Russian axis has been waging war on us for longer than anyone can imagine. Another user posted a crudely done Photoshop of Putin walking a child-sized Trump on a leash. The caption, the Washington is now part of the Chinese, Russian, and Iranian axis. Miller replied to the fake photo approval saying, yeah, picture's worth 1,000 words, as they say. When asked if Trump was a Russian asset during a May episode of Spy Talk, Miller said that back in 2016, I remember saying, hey, we don't have any information on that. Miller also suggested that Trump could be a Russian asset in a British Channel 4 documentary, which aired this month. Is Trump a Russian aspect? If I was to work in the CIA today, I would go back and take another look. Asset is a loaded word to Spy Talk, basically. The CIA would use the word asset to mean fully recruited, meaning a person who knows what he's doing is wrong, and if he's getting some kind of benefit out of it. If that's what we're talking about, I think Trump could be. She's nuts. Miller joined Spy Talk podcast in mid-July, where she repeatedly suggested the collusion claims the Steele dossier might be true, despite the dossier being fully debunked and discredited for years. Podcast hosts were Jeff Stein and Michael Isikoff, the latter being a journalist who had cited Steele as a source in the Yahoo News story in September 2016. She said that we had looked at the dossier, and the problem with it might be true. I don't know. The bottom line is Isikoff interjected to say, I should say nothing in it, other than it was already out there, has ever been verified after years of investigating by Mueller and others. Miller replied, true, but yeah, exactly. But the thing is, Isikoff then asked, so it is responsible at this point to say, so is it responsible at this point to say that it might be true with no evidence to come forward to support any of it? Miller would go on to suggest again that dossier might be true. I would say at this point that we don't have any new information. I mean, that's the bottom line. The Steele dossier did come out, and they insisted that it be attached to the report. And those of us that were on the team were like, absolutely not. But it's not that it's maybe it's true. We had not looked at it. Wow, this came in very late. So all these statements that she's making could be used against her out of court statements. You know, we had thought about it, Miller said. I say we hadn't looked at it. There were some people who had looked to see if there was anything that had been in our own files that corroborated it. We had nothing at that time. Isikoff asked her what the FBI argument was for including the dossier. I think they believed that the Steele dossier, well, let me back up. I asked them if they had any corroborated information. The Steele dossier at the time when we talked to them, and they said they did not, but they felt that it was from a good source that probably knew what they were talking about. And I said it's really hard to change the paper right now and be, if we're going to use that dossier, we need to put this down and probably spend another year seeing if any of it's true. After a question from Stein, Miller said, I'm not going to say it was rogue intelligence. It was just it came out to us. It was so late in the game. We had not looked at all this, and we just can't tell with high confidence, medium confidence, low confidence. Is it true? And at the time, we couldn't do that. What do you mean you couldn't do that? You couldn't decide? Stein asked her if Comey was trying to include the dossier in the ICA because he wanted to smear Trump. Miller took the opportunity again to suggest that the dossier might be true. I don't know Comey well enough. No, I don't think that was so much what he wanted to smear Trump. I think it was more that he believed that he had a belief that it might be true, that he felt it very well could be true, and frankly it could be, and we never looked into it because that's not our job, that's the FBI's job. Later in the interview, Miller again suggested the dossier might be legitimate, saying, this is not something that we could find any evidence of having been truthful or real. Maybe it was real. I'm just going to say it. Maybe it was real. I have no idea. But the bottom line is we couldn't figure out it at that time. Could it be real? Maybe. I just don't know. Miller said she believed the mid-level FBI agent on the ICA drafting team who told her, hey, the FBI has taken a look at this. They don't want to sign off on it unless you put this at the end of the, at the addendum. Miller said that that's what we did. Miller said she believed the annex had a covering paragraph that said something like, this has been included at the FBI's request. The information has not been looked at by this particular team or something to that effect. This has been put in for reader's review. Miller's claim of that sort of caveat is false. The ICX Annex A did not contain a line saying what Miller claimed. At the top of the annex, it's merely stated that we have only limited corroboration of the sources reporting in this case, did not use it to reach the analytical conclusions. She had said in a May episode of Spy Talk, I look back now at the Steele dossier and I wonder, did we miss something? Maybe Trump is acting at a minimum like a dictator, and he's acting like Putin. And so that's why I'm reserving my thoughts. Now we can figure out if there's anything more out there like this. Thank God. When she's asked about the infamous P-tape allegation in the Steele dossier, at first Miller somehow seemed unaware of the salacious false claim, asking what P-tapes, before the documentarian apparently explained it to her off camera, wherein Miller's given a baseless dossier claims some credence. Oh, the P-tapes, now I know what you're talking about. Would they have bugged the room? 100%. Miller also said in the documentary released this month that the Steele dossier, we can find no evidence it's true, we can find no firm evidence that it's false. We also have to leave it alone. So she wants to disprove a negative. Miller's claim in the interview that some inside the U.S. intelligence community were a little bit angry when we came out with what we did because they were hoping we'd be able to say, not all of them, that some of the people were really hoping we'd be able to say, and therefore Trump is not, the president, and that other people wanted us to say nothing to see here, and it was in between that. Oh, they were going to say Trump is not the president. Wow, that's democracy, all right. This analyst is going to declare that Trump isn't the president. Miller pointedly refuses to say who in the CIA had been pushing for such an extreme conclusion. Miller was then asked about Ratcliffe's report, with Isikoff saying Brennan essentially put his thumb on the scale. He did not, Miller replied. We have never even consulted with Brennan until we gave him the final version. We did tell Brennan what we found, and that was exactly what I said, that Russia's tried to influence. I can't tell you what the election is somehow has to be done over because what we can't tell is how many people were influenced by this. And people wanted to say that. Yes, these people are mental. Isikoff again pressed her on who wanted to say that, but Miller stumbled, saying, I can't remember. There were people that, I'm not going to get into that, but basically there were people who were like, not on my team, we just decided to be straightforward. But there were some that were like, there's something to see here, and there's others saying nothing to see here, and I never asked them what they wanted to hear that or see that. I just assumed that one from one party and one from another, and I didn't really care because we decided to be absolutely alone in our process. Miller also said on the podcast that Trump was going after the ICA team who dared to write the report that simply said the Russians tried to influence the election towards Trump. We can't tell you if it worked, and therefore Trump is our president, is what I said, and that's a crime. Miller wrote on LinkedIn, we're investigating, and yes, the Russians did try, but we could not prove that the influence op worked. We found no collusion at the time because between Trump and the Russians, and we clearly stated this in the paper. Nowhere in the ICA was there any such statement, and left such a conclusion ambiguous, allowing the narrative to take root in the anti-Trump camps and the legacy media. The Director of National Intelligence and the White House are lying again, Miller said. We definitely had the intel to show with high probability that the so specific goal of the Russians was to get Trump. She had it. At the same time, we found no two-way collusion between Trump and his team with the Russians at that time. Miller said she was not interviewed by CIA's lesson learned. I got together with other members of my team and we all rolling our eyes because none of it was true. My team, we would have walked away if Brennan was telling us, I want you to find something in Trump's favor or against Trump. We would have absolutely just walked away. I would never have been part of that, nor my team. Iskov pointed out that you didn't walk away when Brennan directed you to include the dossier in a report. So when he told us he wants to add it in the addendum, we noted that he didn't have any chance to look at it, and we put it in the addendum, but the key is that we're not going to use it as any piece of our analysis. We just didn't have corroboration of the Steele document at that time. Miller claimed that the Ratcliffe thing was, yes, 100% a political hit job by Ratcliffe, argued that he's doing Trump's bidding to go after those of us who drafted the ICA, yet the ICA team later admitted that multiple assertions in the CIA lesson learned review were true. Miller said that's true when asked about the CIA's review finding that the FBI participation in the ICA hinged on the dossier's inclusion, that the FBI repeatedly pushed to leave the references to the dossier throughout the body of the ICA. It wasn't to me, Miller said. I think it was between Brennan and the FBI director. It must have been. CIA review found that the CIA's deputy director for analysis had warned Brennan, including the dossier and the ICA, in any form risked the credibility of the entire paper in a December 29th email. Miller admitted, well, that is true. The CIA memo also said Brennan showed a preference for narrative consistency over analytical soundness, and that Brennan was motivated by the dossier's general conformity with the existing anti-Trump theories rather than by legitimate tradecraft concerns. Miller admitted that that's probably true too. She said that, yeah, it was blackmail by Comey to force the inclusion of the dossier in the ICA, and that they were definitely using coercion, yeah. Miller has repeatedly said the intelligence was overwhelmingly strong, that Putin had aspired to help Trump win the election, including telling the Washington Post in July that we had very, very exquisite access. There's no doubt. But in her interview with Spy Talk podcast this month, Miller was unable to recall basic facts about the timeline, including when Trump was first elected, when the CIA and her ICA team first received this key intelligence about Putin's motivations. Even forgetting when the intelligence had come in before or after Trump's win, he also couldn't remember if the ICA team had access to intelligence on a directive from Putin himself or not. It was the last days of the Obama administration. It was in 2016 when 2017, I guess, when Trump was first elected. It was, it would have been told in November 2016, so it was 2015, 2016 when we were working on this. When asked about whether the key elements, Miller repeatedly shifted her story. Would have been, I can't remember exact dates or anything, but it would have been probably December 2016 timeframe. Yeah, 16 or even, 16 I'm saying, but even November or maybe earlier. Thing is, what happens with these reports is we just put them out and let people look at them. And then, so it was definitely December-ish that, or November, December, that I'd say, where we were working on it, trying to figure out what we could find. Miller asked if the ICA team had direct intelligence of a directive from Putin himself. That was asked by us too. Do you think Putin knew about it? I'm like, it's a dictatorship. He had to know about it, you know? Oh, so they just conclusory statements. And, when Isikoff said that it sounded like an analytical judgment than a direct intelligence, Miller stumbled again and said she couldn't recall. Yeah, I can't remember if it was direct or analytical, but the bottom line is 100% Putin was behind it. Because if Russia's trying to influence the president, the election, it's not going to be some GS-13 in the Ministry of Interior that's deciding to do that. You got to go from the very tippy top, just like it would be for us if we were going to do somewhere else. The trouble with the facts and timelines extends even to who was CIA director then. Miller said in an interview in July that Trump said, thank you, Gina, for that after he was briefed on ICA in January 2017, seemingly mixed up the fact that it was Brennan and not future CIA director Gina Haspel who briefed Trump at the ICA Trump Tower in January 2017. Miller also posted on LinkedIn, DCI herself tasked us to do it, the ICA. Brennan Amail was the CIA director in 2016. Haspel would have been CIA director under Trump. Miller's also claimed that she was put on trial by then Attorney General William Barr and then Special Counsel John Durham at Trump's behest. Miller was, in fact, never charged nor put on trial. Miller claimed to Times Radio that Trump got Barr and Durham to open a trial on us. She said she was interviewed by Durham for 8 hours. I spent 8 hours on trial. Other team members also had trials, unexpectedly. Nothing criminal was found, of course, but how on earth could a U.S. attorney not stand up to him and say, no, there's no crime, so I'm not going to charge him? Said Barr went ahead, so I'm worried not about me, my team, but it's long over, but the fact that he thinks it's above the law, but willing to manipulate the law. Miller said again in June that Trump put me on trial, criminal complaint after inauguration. No such criminal complaint has surfaced, and Miller has not produced a copy of one. Miller botched the timeline when Barr and Durham began an inquiry into the origins and conduct of the Trump-Russia investigation. Barr was not named Attorney General until February 2019 and did not assign Durham to look into the saga until May 2019. Miller has said that Barr and Durham began investigating her at Trump's direction in 2017. She called Trump a documented liar and a bully in March posts on LinkedIn. I experienced firsthand when 2017 we tried to put my team at the CIA in jail because we had the audacity to confirm that the Russians had indeed tried to influence the election in his favor in 2016. But unless we poll every voter, we cannot say if it worked. And given the closeness of the election, we can't argue it didn't work. This was the Barr-Durham Tribunal. Look it up. Miller also told the British Channel 4 that some months after Trump's election, that those of us who wrote the paper on Russian influence in the election were called into our offices as general counsel and the head lawyer at the CIA. We were told that Trump had ordered Attorney General William Barr to set up a committee that would look at putting those of us who wrote the paper in jail, basically, to hide a Leon for me. Miller's political post on LinkedIn began in August 2024 with praise for former CIA Director Leon Panetta, a signer of the infamous Hunt Barr letter related to his speech at the 2024 Democratic National Committee convention, where he then, Vice President Kamala Harris, received her party's nomination after Joe Biden stepped down. Jeremy Bash, former Chief of Staff at the CIA and U.S. Department of Defense under Obama, shared a Washington Post article on LinkedIn. Harris' foreign policy is rooted in pro-democracy international. Just asked former Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta. Bash commented, one more analysis from Secretary Panetta's DNC speech in 7 minutes. He laid out the stakes for this election. Miller commented, I so love Panetta. Bash was also a signatory to the Hunter Biden laptop letter. Bash also shared a picture of herself at the DNC with Panetta. Nice pic. And say hi to Leon for me, my favorite director ever. The International Spy Museum has selected Miller for the Hidden Heroes Award for 2025, which are slated to receive it later in the year. Many of the Hunter Biden laptop letter signers now help run that museum. Miller's biography posted on the Spy Museum website said that she was both a division chief and a chief of station several times in the CIA, assistant director of CIA for counterintelligence, and a mission chief overseeing the China Mission Center before becoming associate deputy director for CIA for operations. Miller told Spy Talk, I was deputy chief of counterintelligence mission, and I was the chief. And then between 2016 and 2020, she told the Global Intelligence Knowledge podcast in April that she had been the CIA case officer in the Soviet Union and Russia. She was the CIA's chief of station in Malaysia after 9/11. She told the podcast that Biden CIA Director William Burns visited Israel in August 2020 when she was chief of station there, and then she asked her to run the CIA's newly formed China Mission Center, which was formally launched in October 2021. The Old Times read earlier this month that she was the station chief in Israel when the U.S. carried out a strike against Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. Miller told the podcast that after time in Israel, I set up the China Mission Center. She did an interview with Mustang News. Oh my God, this lady just loves to talk. Since retiring, she's told the podcast, I've been doing some training in CIA schools. Man, oh man. Just remember one thing, that Russiagate would not have been possible without a complicit propaganda press. Absolutely correct. Social postings and interviews reveal not just the political bias of Susan Miller, but her remarkably poor handling of some key facts. The one unassailable fact that comes out of her public statements is her declaration that I am not a Trump fan. All this makes for a great pitch to join figures like Clapper and McCabe on MSNBC or CNN contracts. It's less compelling than defending the work product of the CIA on this report. Our spy state appears to be nearly unaccountable with no checks on power. That's terrifying. Its unelected fourth branch of government is corrupting the entire government with impunity. I am not a Trump fan. Disturbing political statement surfaced from Brennan's hand-picked head of the controversial assessment. They've been discussing the recent declassified materials of Russian investigation, the role of former CIA Director John Brennan at the end of the Obama administration. After an earlier intelligence assessment rejected the narrative that was effectively quashed, Brennan reportedly handpicked a team to do a second rush 2016 U.S. intelligence community assessment in the final days. We are now learning more about the person Brennan selected to head the team. Just the news and other outlets had revealed not just extreme political bias to Susan Miller, but her remarkably poor handle on some key facts. The one unassailable fact that comes out in her declaration is, I'm not a Trump fan. The review of Miller's social media postings reveals intense hostility towards Donald Trump and his supporters, including calling the president a dictator and MAGA supporters Nazis. What's particularly notable is that she still maintains that widely ridiculed Steele dossier, secretly funded by the Clinton campaign, might be true. Miller recently retired, but said she continues to train CIA officers. Brennan chose wisely if he wanted to ensure that a reliable political ally would draft the assessment. However, she has said that there were others in the CIA who wanted actual findings that Trump election was illegitimate. that the narrative pushed by Hillary Clinton and many Democrats after 2016 loss. She suggests that many may still be true. Hillary appears to be one of the last diehards claiming the Steele dossier is also reportedly still proved correct in its allegations. Hillary seemed to view the CIA's role as part of resistance, or at least a counterforce to Trump. She responded in a forum post saying, yes, Hitler, yeah, we saw all this stuff. Okay, we read all that stuff. Conspiracy against Trump is ongoing, and the media are active participants. Yeah, there they all are. There they all are. Okay, maybe we lied about Biden's health, Russian collusion, and COVID, and Hunter Biden's laptop, and the January 6th, and Ukraine, and Epstein, and Hollywood, and everything in between. But trust us, we tell you that Trump is a threat to our democracy.
Well, my reaction to what you just heard from CIA Director John Ratcliffe on your show is that he actually broke some pretty major news there. You are giving this story the weight that it is due. We have had, in the last week, absolutely explosive revelations about what the Obama administration did to attempt to sabotage the incoming Trump administration. Because you are giving this story the weight that it's due, you were able to break the news that John Durham says we are going to get the declassified annex to the John Durham report, which apparently will have some more explosive stuff in there. This is such a major story that he also explained, too, something that has been convoluted in previous coverage, which is the conspiracy against Trump is ongoing. People are so worried about a statute of limitations because some of the crimes that were committed were previous to 5 years ago. But because the conspiracy is ongoing, it's going on right now, not just with these same officials, Brennan and Obama, but also the media who are active participants in this conspiracy. It's ongoing. The investigation is into activity that is happening even as we speak. And so I think that's an important thing that was revealed as well.
Well, Molly, I mean, there's no coincidence that you haven't heard a peep about this Russia collusion lie being blown up on the mainstream media. They refuse to report it.
They refuse to report it because it makes them look bad. Again, Obama, Brennan, and Comey could have done everything that they wanted to do to pit this false narrative. But if they had had skeptical media, more than the about 10 of us there that were skeptical, then they never would have been able to.
Yeah. The Federalist editor, Marley Hemingway,
accomplish it. And people are.
Federalist editor Marlene Hemingway comments on CI director John Ratcliffe telling FNC's studying more futures to classify will open up James Comey and Brennan and all them to charges or false testimony. People are so worried about the statute of limitations because some of the crimes were committed a year or 5 years ago, but the conspiracy is ongoing. It's going on right now. And so these same officials, but also with the media. Yep, it's all right there, what she said. We listened to that. So that's cool. Yeah, so they're going to get them all. This person says that Jim Comey is in terrible trouble. His ambush of General Flynn was a targeted hit. Getting very hot. It's getting very hot for Jim Comey and the Obama regime. The newly classified portions of the January 5th rice season will occur, and the targeting of Flynn was coordinated with the inner circle sanctum of the White House, and both Obama and Biden were deeply involved in the campaign to take out Flynn. Documents previously released and declassified show that the FBI never possessed any evidence that Flynn was a secret Russian agent or that he had broken any laws. The FBI electronic communication closing the agency's counterintelligence investigation against him, which was dated January 4th, made clear that no derogatory information about Flynn had been obtained during the months-long investigation of Flynn. The Department of Justice recently determined that an ambush FBI interview of Flynn, which later formed the foundation of former special counsel Robert Mueller's single charge against Flynn, had no legal basis. Contemporaneous handwritten notes from the FBI's top counterintelligence official at the time showed that the FBI's goal in targeting Flynn in the early 2017 was to prosecute him or get him fired. The DOJ is currently in the process of dismissing all charges against Flynn, citing rank, corruption, and abuse of power in the FBI's campaign against Flynn. It says, it's insanity. Every major city this is a new story. On to the next story. It's insanity. Every major city has some DEI appointed police commissioner. These old lesbian women are in charge of every major city's police department. We really need to look at who's running these departments in these crime-riddled cities. See them? Look at these people. Yeah. It's like when old Salty Pollux ran thing. Yeah. Oh, Jeb, we got 211 in progress. Yeah. And here's the Old Orchard, Maine police chief who hired an illegal alien as an officer. Surprise. I don't know if this is a man, though. This almost looks like it could be a man. Look at those hands. Those are man hands. Having a woman as a police chief just to have a woman as a police chief is such peak ridiculousness. Bingo, lesbians. Female police chiefs in America's 100 largest cities. There it is. Look at this. Seattle, Washington, Atlanta, Dallas, Chula Vista, Honolulu, Oakland, California, Winston-Salem, Phoenix, Arizona, Columbus, Ohio, Portland, Oregon, Durham, Raleigh, North Carolina. But wait, there's more because this ain't all of them because we saw Cincinnati. Yeah, this is Atlanta. It's right here. That's crazy, right? I mean, it's just nuts. Here's Rebecca Weiner, NYPD Deputy Commissioner for Counterterrorism. When she got her big job in 2023, Biden's America, she told the New York Times her top priority would be fighting right-wing extremists and white supremacist movements that advocate overthrowing the government. She graduated from Stanislaw Ulam, the Polish Jewish mathematician who helped conceive the hydrogen bomb as part. She's granddaughter of Stanislaw Ulam, the Polish Jewish mathematician who helped conceive the hydrogen bomb as part of the Manhattan Project. She also worked with Garland and Mayorkas in their policies and argued white nationalists were the nation's biggest threat. Yeah. NYPD hate crimes. Every agency and every has a communist-minded leader. And once again, the suspect is not white. Someone will now end all coverage of this event. Oh. Hey, Steve-O. Thank you. Yeah, I like this fellow. Our channel really get 10% like. I appreciate it. Hey, if you're new here, please hit the like button and subscribe. Definitely repeal the 19th. I agree. Steve, if you're new here, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I do shows almost every night from about 10 o'clock at night, just covering news. That's all I do. I try to keep my own personal opinions out of it as best I can. Another DEI hire who came to the conclusion that it would be a clever idea to employ an illegal alien as a police officer. I don't know how many times I can repeat it. The liberal white women are a threat to our republic. Here she is, yep. Here's my good friend Andrew Bronca says, classic progressivism, no accountability cascade. It's not happening. Okay, it's happening, but it's minor. It's happening, and that's good. The real problem is people complaining that it's happening. Cincinnati police chief shames people for sharing a video of a woman getting beaten because the video didn't depict the entire incident. I am in the Eastern time zone. Right now, it's 1:30 a.m. where I am. I am in Eastern time zone. I live in Florida. Yeah, that was crazy what she said. Without contextual lead up to the physical altercation, what did the men do that warranted a lethal force action by the mob? The woman was clearly attempting to de-escalate and get space for the downed man when she was knocked out. What context is missing? Fatigue. Cincinnati Police Chief Terry Titozaji claims that the black mob that attacked the white tourists were misrepresented in the videos. Exactly, the mob is the true victim. No, DEI must end. Yeah. No, you're good. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I don't know. Do you want to listen to her say it? Because we can listen to her talk. Why not?
Another topic I want to cover real quick. Social media and journalism and the role it plays in this incident. And yes, guys, that's you. That is you.
That is you.
Social media, the post that we've seen, does not depict the entire incident. That is one version of what occurred. At times, social media and mainstream media and their commentaries are a misrepresentation of the circumstances surrounding any given event. What that does, that causes us some difficulties in thoroughly investigating the activity and enforcing the law. Because what happens, that social media post and your coverage of it distorts the content of what actually happened.
Where
And it
were
makes
you
our
blocked
job
from?
more difficult. Go ahead, right here.
Thank you. 2 questions. Where were the nearest officers?
In the central business section. They were working. They were both in vehicles, and like I said, they had to maneuver through the traffic.
My second question is, you had said social media, news media distorted the content of what actually happened. What exactly was distorted? I understand that there was multiple views of the video, but exactly what led up?
A man called Plush with $5 says, I got your DEI right here, black superhero and a rebel flag mask.
The irresponsibility with social media is it just shows one side of the equation. Quite frequently.
In a super chat? Maybe a super chat will get rid of it, but I mean, it's right there. I see it.
And then people run with that.
Thank you, a man called Flush, for the $5. It's greatly appreciated.
Bigger that we then have to try to manage as part of the investigation. So hold on.
Yeah, so that's what she thinks. Mm-hmm. All right. We're going to move on to a new story. This is an insane story, which I thought Joe would have covered because it's about New Jersey, but I didn't see him talk about it. But it's an insane story from New Jersey. A town is trying to seize part of farmland, which it had for almost 2 centuries, to build affordable housing. One of the town council members stands and says, oh, shucks, I feel bad, but I got to do what's right.
Yeah, okay. You f***ing commie libtards, you think you're doing, you're not American, you're just, stealing from the taxpayer, you need to give that farm back.
This is a story about a fight over a farm in New Jersey that turned a small town's housing issue into a national headline. This is Andy Henry's family farm, and his family has owned this property for generations, since before the Civil War.
But what we're working on now is what the town wants to make into housing.
It's kind of hard to imagine.
I don't want to imagine it. It's like, it's hard to think about.
Now, the town wants about half of the 21 acres for affordable housing. In New Jersey, each town has a requirement of how much affordable housing they have to provide. So the township sent Andy and his family a letter offering to buy this property or threatening to seize it via eminent domain if they can't reach a deal.
It was a shock.
Andy started a campaign to save his family farm. It divided the town.
Shame on Matt, shame on Robert, shame on Deborah, shame on...
And became a MAGA rallying cry. Even the Trump administration got involved. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins called it a Biden-style government takeover and called Henry on the phone.
I don't blame people. People are pissed. They feel like the governing structures are not listening. All they hear is that this, 5 Democrat member committee in this town is seizing this hardworking farmer's, family legacy. I think it's an easy target for people.
Matt Scott is part of the committee that helped pick the farm site. He says strict state requirements for affordable housing sites really limited the options.
I felt terrible. I was like, wow, I didn't know we were doing this. There has to be another option. We vetted all these properties, and this is what we're stuck with. None of us wanted to eminent domain a farm. They had no desire to do that. If they don't want to sell, that's kind of where we're at.
Do you feel like the bad guy in this story?
Well, we don't want to, but we will.
No.
Yeah, he is a bad guy. That guy is a bad guy. He is a bad guy.
The Henry
that
brothers,
is a bad guy. Well, we don't have a choice. We're going to just have to take it. The state says we got to take the farm.
The plan is now with a state judge. If the town takes the land, it will have to pay market value, but there's still a chance someone could come forward with a Hail Mary solution to save the farm. Do you think you're going to win this fight?
I do think so. My ancestors are kind of still here. When I walk these fields, I kind of
I think maybe the federal government's going to step in. That the Department of Justice, is going to step in because it's kind of in the Constitution that you can't just take people's fucking property from them. Kind of is the Constitution. You can't do that. Yeah, so CNN says, the MAGA storm. The town wanted this farm for affordable housing. Then came the MAGA storm. It should have been every American storm saying, you're doing what? You're taking a family farm that's been in their family for 170 years because the state mandates that you have to have so much affordable housing? So you're just going to start confiscating other people's property? Doesn't work that way, man. This is America, not fucking communist Russia or China. It's funny the left claims the right is fascist, but they want to steal private property from a family-owned farm. Talk about fascism. What do you find objective about MAGA storm projection? If property rights make me MAGA, then I best get a tattoo to seal the deal. Save Andy's farm. Here's the story. Here's the story that I had to get. I had to load from. I had to load this from archive because they wouldn't let you get it. If you just click on it, it says you got to subscribe or whatever to pay. Then came the MAGA storm. Just steps off a busy road tucked at the end of a gravel driveway with an eye shot of a New Jersey turnpike. A small herd of cows and goats graze freely in a grass open field. It's an unexpected location for a farm bordered by warehouses and an ever-present roar of cars and trucks. But this property has been in the hands of Andy Henry's family since before the Civil War. His grandfather and mother were born in a white wooden farmhouse next to the pasture. Now Henry's locked in a fight to preserve the farm in Cranberry, central New Jersey. The township reached out to buy the site for affordable housing and says they're willing to invoke eminent domain power to seize what it needs if Henry and his brother refuse to make a deal. In a small property in a small town, but the issue has turned into a lightning rod for MAGA supporters around the country and even attracted attention of the Trump administration. Fox News and the New York Post picked up the story. Strangers have raised $135,000 online for Henry's legal defense, left a barrage of comments on social media, and flooded the town administrator with calls. Our town's clerk would forward all of us on the town committee dozens and dozens of hateful voicemails. You fucking commie libtards, you know what the fuck you're doing? You're not American, you're just stealing from the taxpayer. You ought to give the fucking farm back. He said they understood why. They're attracting so much attention. People are pissed. Generally in the country, they feel governing structures are not listening to what they're doing, and something like this comes. All they hear is the 5 Democrat members of committee in this town is seizing this property. For Henry, the saga began in April. He says the first time he heard Cranberry was interested in a farm, he and his wife received a letter stating the town had identified the property as suitable for redevelopment for affordable housing. Certainly, it's always the township's preference to acquire property by mutual agreement with the property owner, as a lawyer for the town wrote at the time. However, when the township is unable to reach a negotiated agreement with the property owner, the township is authorized by law to initiate an action with the court to formally acquire a title. It continued, noting the town would pay the just compensation for the land. It was a shock. Ever since then, we've been pushing back in whatever way we could. Henry no longer lives on a farm. He hasn't since the 90s. He and his brother Chris inherited the property in 2017 when their father died, but both had settled in New Mexico and now lease out their farmland. Those animals on the patch are officially dubbed New Jersey cows for their love of pizza and bagels, belong to a local farmer. After receiving the letter, Henry returned to Cranberry, where he went before the meeting of the township committee later in April, pleading with them to consider alternative sites. Scott, who had served on the committee since 2018, was moved. It was a complete mic drop moment. I felt terrible, like, oh, I didn't know we were doing this. There has to be another option. The Henry farm had come to the attention of the township as the deadline approached for Cranberry to lay out its plans for fulfilling its constitutional obligation for affordable housing. It's something every community in the state has to do in accordance with what's called the Mount Laurel Doctrine, a series of state Supreme Court decisions dating back to 1975 that mandate each municipality provide its fair share. This sounds unconstitutional. It should be challenged up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Cranberry, with its population of fewer than 4,000 living in about 1,400 households, had to say by June 30th where it would add 265 affordable housing units to be built over the next 10 years. This is communism. This is straight up communism. One plot of land whose owner was willing to sell was identified as a site to develop several dozen homes. Finding space for the rest, however, proved nearly impossible. Scott said about 50 properties were evaluated against strict state-mandated criteria such as sewer, water, proximity to mass transportation, and distances from warehouses. Aside from the Henry farm, one after another was found unsuitable. Missing the deadline to file the plan would have opened up the community to what is known as builder's remedy, effectively free rein for developers to bypass planning and zoning rules, which could lead to big developments, population increases, and higher taxes, straining the town resources and costing residents. I feel like I was elected to do greater good, Scott said. The greater good, yeah, commie. I completely understand why this can be seen as working as a heartless, powerful government, but my primary responsibility is to taxpayers of Cranberry, to the parents and school kids. I feel the greater good, the greater good, the greater good. Despite Henry's pleas, Scott said the committee, which has spent 13 months reviewing sites, has determined that there's no other option, and so we're just going to take the land. Acquire the farm through voluntary negotiations rather than power, voted unanimously to pass an ordinance authoring the acquisition of a farm through voluntary integrations or through power of eminent domain on the grounds of satisfying the affordable housing obligations is in the public interest. Cranberry might feel like the small towns caught up in the rules of the state, but Andy Henry feels like David fighting Goliath of the government. It appears that jumping to conclusion that villainizing those serving in public office has become the norm in the U.S. As Mayor Lisa Kieran said, the town is meeting in May doesn't mean it has to be us in Cranberry. They're just blaming, saying it's not our fault. They're saying they're just following orders. They're just following orders. That's all. They're just following orders. It's not their fault. The Trump administration also stepped in, and the Biden-style government takeover of family farms is over. Mm-hmm. Henry and his brother grew up during the 50s. The land was used to farm wheat and soybeans. Back then, the property was surrounded by farmland as far as the eye could see. Now, Cranberry has two distinct parts. Next to I-95, much of the area has been rezoned to light industrial. There's still local farmland, most of which is across another major road. Mm-hmm. Affordable housing consultant speaking on background due to the sensitivity of the situation. Cranberry told CNN the Henry firm will get a strong score on public state rubric grading how suitable a site is for development of homes. This is a property must come close to perfect to qualify for state funding. One question not being debated here is the need for affordable housing. The National Low Income Housing Coalition found that New Jersey is over 200,000 units short on affordable housing, unveiling 29 affordable apartments in 2021. 9,309 people applied. Yeah, we'll get rid of the illegals and they'll have plenty of stuff. A local firm has been involved in previous affordable housing projects, but has not consulted on this plan. We have a waiting list that is usually 2 years for people to get into affordable housing. Now, Andy Henry understands and is sympathetic to the need for housing, but he doesn't think his property should be the location. If they have to build affordable housing, not opposed to that. It's how much and where. The plan formally filed with the state shows Cranberry seeking to buy a little over 11 acres of the 21-acre property. The farmhouse where generation grew up will be untouched. Even with the concession, Henry's not interested. It would just kind of take away the soul of the farm. And no amount of money could get him to sell. Yeah, why would he want? Why would he want affordable housing right next to his house? They just keep going up, and I'm not even going to negotiate them. I just say no, and there's no plans to sell in the foreseeable future. Right away, they'll come back. So how about if we give you a few million more dollars? And I'm like, I'm not trying to negotiate with you. I mean what I said. Well, I don't know. If they were going to give him like $50 million, I think I would take that. Last week, Henry got a letter from the town saying they're likely scheduled an appraisal, the first step in eminent domain proceeding to determine the fair market price to be paid if the town forces the sale. For his part, Henry is awaiting a judge's ruling on whether he can add his farm to a preservation order protecting it from development. That's why that's not something he'd done before. We didn't see the threat coming from the town. We knew developers were interested in it. Most of them would ask politely, and we'd say no. We didn't see the town coming. Yeah, no, land isn't replaceable real estate, 101, but for enough money, sell it and just boogie out of there. I would sell it completely unless they're saying it's because it's like sentimental value because it's their family farm, which I can understand that totally. But I mean, I don't know if he's got kids or whatever and what their plans are. So, all right. We got this story. We're going on to the next story now. See, I just keep giving you guys story after story after story. I just keep going. Election integrity. What if Act Blue was simply a massive money laundering operation? It's being alleged that as much as 60% of the donations funneled through the platform are from China. Senator Fincham and whistleblower Sean Taylor claim they have evidence that Act Blue is involved in a real estate fraud and money laundering totaled in the billions of what they call the motherlode of all financial crimes. Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Sell it if it's for sale, otherwise they can F off. No, I agree. I'm a bulldog on this stuff, thank you. I just like to keep going, you know what I mean, and buzz through and let people hear the stories. I used to like to chop them up, but it's so much work to chop them up. It takes so many hours that I don't run out of time finding the stories for that day. So I don't know. Maybe eventually, if I make enough money, I'll hire somebody to cut the videos up and to break them into smaller videos and put them out so people can watch them separately. But the guy I talked to wants like $50 per video, and that's really not like something I could pay. You know what I mean? That like to make for each video he makes $50. So if like I do 20 stories in one show, that would be like 50 times 20. That's insane. I can't do that. Oh. Act Blue. Act Blue accused of massive money laundering bombshell investigation led by this Arizona State Senator and Sean Taylor. Yep. The mother lode of all financial crimes. Election integrity. Arizona State Senator Mark Fitcham and whistleblower Sean Taylor uncover evidence of Act Blue's real estate fraud and money laundering scheme in the billions. The mother lode of all financial crimes. In the billions. How did they achieve that level of funding? Even if they aren't prosecutions, I hope the law enforcement uses civil asset forfeiture to impound a property. They need to start charging people. Oh. Well, thank you. You and Joe give me spaces to pull my head out of sand in public pages. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm doing good with the pace. It's rage bait, but sometimes healing to share. I appreciate it. I'm not a big time YouTuber. Not at all. I'm not a big time YouTuber. Here's a story. Breaking: Arizona State Senator and whistleblower uncover evidence of Act Blue's real estate fraud and money laundering schemes in the billions. The mother lode of all financial crimes. Dun, 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 dun. Something has to happen, right? Unleashed News. Arizona Senator, who also serves as Executive Director of Election Fairness Institute, EFI, and the former Tennessee Assistant Police Chief Sean Taylor, senior research and analysis, have been quietly leading a bombshell investigation into what it may be the largest money laundering and real estate fraud scheme in U.S. history. According to exclusive evidence shared with Unleashed News and the Gateway Pundit, suspicious property transactions totaling in the billions are now under review, with trail pointing directly to the top Act Blue leadership, its donor network, and a web of accomplices. Mm-hmm. At the center of the shocking discovery is what investigators are calling the magic mortgage money laundering scheme, which apparently to be tied directly to Act Blue and its donor channels. This scheme allegedly uses inflated property sales to rapid same-day flips as a pipeline to funnel illicit funds through the U.S. financial and political systems. In a year-long investigation, Finch's team, along with whistleblower Sean Taylor, a former law enforcement official from Millersville, Tennessee, have uncovered patterns of multi-same-day property transfers where values were inflated by as much as 100 times the original sale amount within hours. What? The evidence is staggering. Property sales histories pulled from LexisNexis, one of the most trusted top-tier real estate and public records platforms, is widely regarded as the gold standard in aggregating property and land deed records. We have Unleashed News has interviewed both Senator Fitcham and Sean Taylor directly and have poured over an excruciating amount of documentation. This evidence has already been shared with the Department of Justice and the FBI, signaling that federal investigations and even potential congressional hearings are on the horizon. What we're seeing looks like the motherlode of all money laundering schemes. It's so vast that it touches everything: political slush funds, cartel money, human trafficking proceeds, and even possibly even the CCP. Cash being funneled into the U.S. Hey, good night, Steve. Thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate it. It's how the Democrats get their money. It's where it all comes from. Yeah? They prey on their own real estate gurus. That's right. There are just too many of these 100% same-day spike transactions for this to be dismissed as a simple Scrivener's error, says whistleblower Sean Taylor. When the numbers jump by a factor of 100 in a matter of hours across multiple properties and states, it points to something deliberate and systemic. At the heart of the unfolding scandal is a press release issued by Fitcham's investigative team. The document outlines the first wave of properties under review and the shocking pattern emerging in their deed histories. So here's the press release. It says Act Blue appears to have generated significant funds through fictitious real estate transactions involving off-the-books cash. Wait, are they saying that Act Blue is buys properties and sells them at 100% markup to foreigners, and that's how they get the foreign money to come? Oh, then people need to go to prison. The investigation uncovered repeated cases where a property was sold at market value and within the same day transferred again for 100 times that amount. These weren't isolated incidents. Evidence pulled from LexisNexis showed this occurs across multiple properties in California, Texas, and other states, with total suspicious value spikes estimated to hit billions of dollars. Sorry, I needed something to drink. Unleashed News has been independently reviewing live Lexus data along Taylor, confirming that these transactions are embedded in the platform's official property records. Both Fitchman and Taylor have confirmed this evidence has directly been handed to the Department of Justice and the FBI. Explosive nature of these findings make congressional hearings and subpoenas all but inevitable. This isn't just about real estate fraud. This is about financial pipelines that fuel everything rotten in America right now. When you see numbers this big, you're looking at cartel money, you're looking at human trafficking cash, you're looking at foreign adversaries buying influence with corrupted systems. We're going to follow the money. As part of the investigation, Fitchman's team research have compiled a growing body of evidence that puts ActBlue directly under the microscope. A newly obtained document on March 10, 2025 letter the Congressional Oversight Committee to the U.S. Treasury is now being introduced as a record as supporting evidence. The letter specifically raises concerns about the potential fraudulent illicit financing activity tied to ActBlue and requests suspicious activity reports related to the money laundering, credit card fraud, and identity theft. Wow. Document confined with the findings established a powerful evidentiary trail and suspicious money flows uncovered in the Magic Mortgage scheme may align directly with ActBlue's massive fundraising networks and a web of shell entities. If confirmed, this would expose one of the most elaborate, well-funded dark money activities in America's history. Scott Bessent, the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, the committee's concern reports suggesting fraud and evasion of campaign finance law by individuals exploiting online contribution platforms, especially ActBlue. Until recently, ActBlue had not implemented standard procedures. Yeah, and I think a bunch of people quit from ActBlue, too. It's just the beginning. The Gateway Pundit confirmed this is the first of a multi-part investigation series that will track the stories that unfolds in real time. With evidence now in the hands of federal agencies and whistleblowers coming forward, the next phase will blow the scandal wide open. Stay tuned right here to Gateway Pundit for further updates. Call to action. If you're a whistleblower, contact them. Well, I'm going to be watching this story because this, to me, ActBlue's got to go down. We know they're corrupt and crooked. Okay, on to the next story. This one's about the Supreme Court. The SCOTUS just set the stage for another historic term. 9 cases, all political dynamite. Trans, male, and girl sports. Donor privacy, redistricting by race, election day ballot deadlines, and more. Here's what's coming and why it matters. 2 blockbuster cases will decide if states can ban biological males from competing in girls and women's sports. Idaho, West Virginia, and Donald Trump say yes. Federal courts said no. This fall, SCOTUS could finally draw the line between reality and gender ideology. So you're saying Georgia had a rash of its churches that were targeted, whole congregations would get snake oil, that the lenders were small mortgage brokers were often used through nepotism. So what they were doing, they were targeting a whole congregation, trying to buy all the houses from the people. Colorado banned therapists from counseling minors who wanted to fight unwanted same-sex attraction or gender confusion by affirming it totally fine. The court will now decide, can the government ban certain views in private conversation? Louisiana redrew its congressional map to create 2 black majority districts. Non-black voters sued for racial discrimination. The court refused to rule in June, but it's coming back. The future of race, redistricting, and the House majority may hang in the balance. I don't, can a political party coordinate more spending with its own candidates? Right now, the FEC limits how much party committees can help their own nominees. Trump's team wants the wall torn down. It's free speech. The court may finally agree. Fixer-ups get pensions and big fish too. A Republican congressman is challenging Illinois' law allowing ballots to be counted if they received it 14 days after the election. Yeah, see, they just did this too. Like if you notice, Newsom and a bunch of these people at Pritzker in Illinois, they were running around saying how Trump's trying to steal the 2026 election. Republicans are trying to steal the election. Well, it's called confession through projection because Illinois passed this law saying they could count ballots 14 days after the election. They come in 14. That's how you steal an election. There's absolutely no reason that you would count a ballot that comes in 2 weeks after the election. That ballot was cast after election day. That's not a valid ballot. And then California did the same thing. Gavin Newsom, they just passed the law. Same thing. They want to extend it to time. It was 14 days in California. They extended it to 30 days in California. New Jersey Democrat AG demanded donor list from a pro-life pregnancy center because that's not a recipe for targeting your opposition's donors. Geez. The court will decide if donors could be harassed by government officials just for giving to the wrong cause. Yeah. This AG guy too is nuts. He just was bragging on Platkin, his name or whatever, from AG in New Jersey, was just bragging on social media because he went after somebody for selling somebody a case of ammunition. He sold some guy sold a case of ammunition, and so that's a crime in New Jersey. You can't sell one case. I mean, 1,000 rounds, one case. You can't do that in New Jersey against the law. A Mississippi preacher was arrested for preaching near a concert, then barred from suing the city. The question: if you're convicted under a possibly unconstitutional law, can you challenge it, or is your First Amendment gone forever? A wounded Army veteran sues a defense contractor for negligence after a suicide bombing, but the courts say he can't sue, not even in state court. Court must decide: do military contractors share government sovereign immunity? Alabama tried to execute a man with multiple IQ scores above 70. A federal court said that wasn't enough to prove he wasn't intellectually disabled. SCOTUS will now decide whether IQ tests should protect guilty people who just happen to be stupid. This is the most politically charged SCOTUS term in generations, from sports to speech to elections. The court, I didn't see any, you know what I didn't see on there? Any Second Amendment cases. What the F, man? Where's the Second Amendment cases? Where's assault ban cases? Assault weapons ban cases, huh? Magazine limit ban cases. On to the next story. Every violent far-left felony suspect in federal custody in Oregon has been ordered released by liberal federal judges. They include Antifa gunman and LGBT activist Adam Lansky, who allegedly shot up and firebombed a Tesla store in Salem. He allegedly aimed his rifle at a witness to intimidate them. Antifa attacker Julia Winters, Chris Hudson, who was recorded on camera trying to attack federal agents with knives outside an ICE Antifa riot. Trans non-binary Antifa suspect Robert Jacob Hoops, who allegedly hurled a rock at the head of a federal agent protecting the ICE building from insurrection. The officer was seriously injured, and he laughed and smiled as he was released without bail on felony charges. Are these binding decisions? I thought federal law supersedes their power. A federal judge can order release of a federal suspect. Yeah, this a federal judge is doing it. Awful. Awful. This judge, Yuli Yim-Yu, denied the request to keep Hoops in pretrial custody. I'm old enough to remember when most judges were not wackos who opposed law and order. Yeah, here's the judge. Yeah. At my federal courthouse in Portland covering the initial hearing. Sorry. Federal courthouse in Portland covering the Calling a massive raid at his home. He was Antifa militant raid massive home on his home Friday. Hopes has been accused of launching several violent attacks on federal police officers at the ICE facility and during the No Kings riot. According to an unsealed FBI affidavit, Hoops allegedly threw a large rock at an ICE officer's head, resulting in a serious bodily injury. He was captured on surveillance footage, taking multiple rocks at a facility before throwing them at federal police. Hoops allegedly placed a motorized scooter in front of an exit door in an attempt to trap federal officers inside the facility. When the officer opened the door to stop the entrapment, Hoops allegedly threw a large rock, hitting the officer in the head, according to the affidavit. Additionally, Hoops was captured on surveillance video using a desecrated stop sign as a battering ram in an attempt to break an ICE gate. Task was already done with several other Antifa militants, according to court documents. Hoops has been federally charged by the department with assault on a federal police officer resulting in bodily harm and depredation of government property. Hoops was taken into custody by the FBI on Friday, June 25th. FBI raided his home, where his girlfriend was also involved in Antifa operations. According to witnesses, FBI raided his home early morning with their guns drawn. Other occupants, including Hoops' girlfriend, were allegedly handcuffed and removed to the street wearing only undergarments after being combated with officers. Dozens of individuals arrived at the courthouse to support Hoops, who they portray as an innocent Quaker pacifist. U.S. Attorney from District of Oregon argued to the court that Hoops is no such pacifist, but rather a violent threat to the community, detailing his alleged criminal actions. U.S. Attorney played surveillance video showing several of Hoops' alleged actions, asked the judge to keep Hoops in custody awaiting trial, arguing that he's a violent conduct to the danger community. Judge Yoon Lim Yu denied the request. Instead, she issued a series of conditions that included GPS monitoring and preventing Hoops from returning to the ICE facility. FBI affidavit had been ordered to be partially unsealed. Hoops faces up to 20 years in prison if convicted. Additionally, Hoops has been wearing black bloc military gear during alleged lawful actions. Minor correction: July 25th, not June 25th, incident occurred. So July 25th is the community support Hoops received from the Quaker community today brings a series of questions, particularly when did he get radicalized? The majority of his supporters learned of his charges in the courtroom with everyone else. His father flew into town as well. FBI has been unsealed. FBI identified who's the suspect who raped the facial recognition software after a photo of him attending to a protester was featured in a local paper several days after the incident. Well, he got tattoos too. That's how they get him with the tattoos. They conducted surveillance at his home, and they captured a photo of Hoops at the residence, including the affidavit. Yeah, reveals an identical forearm tattoo with distinctive silver bracelet. Yeah, well, that's how they got him. Court filings include several images from surveillance showing Hoops allegedly throwing the rocks and stuff. Photo of injuries of the officer. More information. Violent suspects federally charged this time for violent attacks. Booking information. Lifelong Quaker is charged with the aggravated assault on a federal officer. Depredation. Yeah, he's not a lifelong Quaker. Yeah. That's not a lifelong Quaker. I hate to break it to people. Yeah. Yeah, so the lifelong Quaker charged with assaulting federal officers in Portland Antifa riot. A lifelong Quaker wouldn't be doing what he's doing. A man whose father described him as a lifelong Quaker was deeply committed to pacifism and now facing multiple federal charges. That's the father's a liar. Portland man was charged with aggravated assault on a federal officer with a dangerous weapon and depredation of federal property. During the protests, he was allegedly throwing large rocks. U.S. Attorney's Office said he threw one of the rocks and hit the officer in the face. The U.S. Attorney's district got him. Well, see, that's the thing is they got his tattoo and everything on his arm, and they see him throwing the rocks. They got him. His lifelong Quaker, deeply committed to pacifism, is an organic gardener and soul of kindness. He was involved on June 14th in an action. What his involvement was, I can't speak to that, but he's deeply committed to justice. Quakers are known for the devotion of pacifism, and according to Quaker.org, follow the faith to reject war and violence in all its forms. Well, he's clearly not a Quaker then. Yeah. Local ABC affiliates quoted a letter originally written by Hope's roommate who says, he is not someone who would have assaulted an officer. The roommate recalled at approximately 9 a.m. they saw a flood of armed officers racing into our driveway and charging our house with assault rifles. Yeah. Judge Yuli Yim Yu granted Hoops pretrial release at the first hearing going against the federal prosecutor's request. I want you to notice all these, there's a whole, yeah. It should be saying Florida man, yeah, not Quaker man, right? But you notice a lot of these judges' names, these federal judges' names don't sound like, don't sound like, names you think you would hear. Then this is Andy No, he posted this, talking about the shielding would member face plants while trying to escape a Portland riot, faces felony charge. Talking about these people that fell down, got hurt. His case was unsealed. Approximately, officers got that person. Mm-hmm. And then here's this. This I thought was a funny story. I just wanted to play. It says, pay to play. Kamala Harris campaign helped Reverend Al hide pay to play endorsement payments, according to the National Black Church Initiative, a coalition of black churches that urged MSNBC to suspend Sharpton for the arrangement. Says, shortly after Kamala Harris campaign sent the National Action Network $500,000, Reverend Al endorsed Harris. National Black Church Initiative, a coalition of black churches, urged MSNBC to suspend Sharpton over the pay-to-play arrangement between Harris and Sharpton's National Action Network. Let's hear what Sharpton has to say about it.
Good to see you. We have a couple questions for you on this, but let's just start simply with the accusation that President Trump has leveled at you. Were you paid for an endorsement?
Well, absolutely not. And as the FEC filings say, they helped the campaign, gave funds for Get Out the Vote campaigns for National Action Network, of which I'm a part of, and other civil rights groups, some which got more than National Action Network did. National Action Network, nor I even endorsed her. What is interesting about this, though, is that the fact that this is as you accurately reported, second or third time, lawyers for National Action Network was looking at, can we sue him for defamation? Because he had knowledge this time that there was no endorsement and that I didn't get any money. This went to the nonprofit that I'm connected to. But let's look at the larger picture here. Donald Trump is in very serious problems around this whole question of Epstein. So last week, he was trying to flood the zone to take any pressure off.
Epstein. He's going to talk about Epstein.
Then he went on to something with the fouls. Now, Barack Obama.
Everybody knows that at Reverend Al took the money. And he did endorse her. He's lying. $500,000 he got. He endorsed her like the next
he ought
day.
to be prosecuted. That didn't work. Then he tried.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look at civil rights leaders then and now. I have a dream. I have a scheme. Yeah. Can we all stop calling this charlatan a reverend? I'm so old. I'm so old. I remember the part where the fake rape allegations, Ronna Brawley made Sharpton stoke racism back then. Lives were ruined and innocent Leo committed suicide. Yeah, that's right. Tawana Brawley. Mm-hmm. And then the Crown Heights riots. Does anyone remember the Crown Heights riots? So we all know he did it, and he's being accused by other people, not just Trump. On to the next story. Yeah, that was Al Sharpton. Yeah, New York could be the first state to ban natural gas hookups. Wow, crazy, right? When is the federal government going to step in and stop states from effing with the Commerce Clause? Yeah, that's right. We can't expect American people to jump from capitalism to communism, but we can assist their elected leaders in giving them small doses of socialism until they awaken one day to find they have communism. We don't have to invade the United States we will destroy them from within. It's a direct quote from Premier Nikita Khrushchev. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. New York could be on the first state to ban natural gas hookups. New York has moved a step closer to becoming the first state in the nation to ban natural gas connection in new homes and buildings after a federal judge on Wednesday rejected a challenge to the controversial law. U.S. District Judge Glenn Sotheby of the Northern District of New York said the state's prohibition on new gas infrastructure does not conflict with the Federal Energy Policy and Conservation Act, rejecting preemption claims by opponents who sued to block the requirement for going into effect next year. What about the Commerce Clause? The judge refused to dismiss the case, however, saying the plaintiffs have standing to sue over the restrictions. It cannot be logically disputed on the facts, provided that a prohibition on the installation of fossil fuel equipment in new buildings will have some tangible impact on the plaintiff's business, regardless of whether a portion of the such impacts might be attributable to other factors, such as more consumers choosing heat pumps for reasons unrelated to the prohibition. The judge gave the plaintiff 21 days to file arguments detailing a persuasive reason why the case should proceed, or ruled it fair to dismiss the case. The ruling stems from a 2023 lawsuit by a coalition of business groups and unions challenging New York's regulations are preempted by federal law and will hurt business revenues and hamper development of fossil fuel. The gas ban has economic implications for multiple industries that cross state lines, demonstrating the need for cohesive national energy policy, the plaintiffs wrote in an initial complaint. The ban presents existential threats to small family-owned businesses. It's a Commerce Clause issue. New York is among a handful of states, including California and Washington, have taken steps to prohibit gas appliances as part of climate change policies. But New York is the first state to do so by bypassing legislation especially banning fossil fuel appliances. A similar gas ban in Berkeley, California was struck down by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals following a lawsuit challenging the law. Democrat Governor Kathy Hochul's pushed for a ban on new and existing gas hookups as part of her environmental agenda, saying the move would improve public health and reduce the state's carbon footprint. Republican lawmakers and construction industry groups have criticized banning gas stoves and government overreach. They are penalizing consumers while doing little to blunt the impacts of climate change. New York State Builders Association wrote Attorney General Pat Bundy urging her to file litigation to block the regulations under Trump's executive order protecting American energy from state overreach. Trade groups said the gas ban is precisely the kind of unconstitutional ideologically driven state overreach that the Trump's order seeks to eliminate. The gas ban violates core constitutional principles and interstate commerce by attempting to dictate national energy usage through state level restrictions. It burdens domestic energy production and raises costs on middle-class homeowners and compromises energy reliability with economic freedom. Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody who came out tonight for being here. Please remember to hit the like button. Please subscribe. Please leave a comment on the video. Let me know what you think, what you think I could do better, what you think I did all right, anything like that. Thank you for stopping by. I will see you Wednesday night at 10 p.m. approximately. Come on back where Jim can tell you the news.